Chapter 410, Snowflake Flood. Zuemo asked Pu Yao curiously, "What is Gong Sun Shidi doing?" "He is organizing his troops." A look flashed through Pu Yao's eyes. He suddenly laughed lightly. "Now there's something good to watch." "Something good to watch?" Zuemo did not understand. Pu Yao did not reply. His previous expression of gravity had disappeared, and a cold smile had formed at the corner of his mouth. In other people's eyes, Gong Sun Cha's organization of the troops seemed quite difficult, but Gong Sun Cha himself was immersed in the organization of his experiment. The attributes of the flame-boring Yao were very similar to the sword Xiao of Vermilion Bird Camp. They had strong offensive abilities and were weak defensively. However, Gong Sun Cha did not organize them like he did Vermilion Bird Camp. He was trying a new kind of organization. 6 flame-boring Yao to a team, 6 teams to a troop. It was the first time that Gong Sun Cha was organizing his troops this way. It wasn't going too smoothly in the beginning. Even the spectators were able to feel that he was slightly hesitant. But as the organization continued, the light in Gong Sun Cha's eyes grew clear. His movements became crisper, and the organization became smooth. A kind of presence called confidence slowly spread. This new organization of troops wasn't done on just an impulse. The problem of how he was to increase the combat capabilities of Vermilion Bird Camp was a problem that he had thought about for a long while. This completely new formation was one of the products of his efforts. The 3-section wave-killing charge was unrivaled in its sharpness, but if they were bogged down in a battle of endurance, they would face the problem of not having any lasting power. Vermilion Bird Camp might have looked undefeatable in Little Mountain Jie, but Gong Sun Cha knew very well that in the whole world, Vermilion Bird Camp was far from being elite. Once they fought against even stronger enemies, and the first 3 attacks were ineffective, then Vermilion Bird Camp would be in danger. Recently, his skill as a battle general had increased greatly, and his vision was much broader than before. Possessing rich and new battle experience, he had thought of several novel battle tactics. If it was any other battle general, they would have not dared to randomly create tactics. In their eyes, creating new battle tactics was a very unreliable thing. They understood hundreds of battle tactics. These battle tactics, used hundreds of times in the past, were enough for them to deal with the great majority of situations. Never having undergone systematic education, Gong Sun Cha did not have their shackles. The number of battle tactics that he understood wasn't even as many as the silver battle generals of the Yao world. Pu Yao never taught him concrete battle tactics. He could only discover and experience them through the process of fighting against Pu Yao. All battle trends had to be concluded by himself. He only pursued victory. Only more rational and effective tactics could help him achieve victory. The messy troops slowly formed as if an invisible hand was shaping them into snowflakes, from ugliness into beauty. As the gazes started to become serious, the sounds of discussion decreased. Looking down from the sky, Gong Sun Cha's troops were like hundreds of snowflakes that fell upon the ground. But these snowflakes were deep red, because flame-boring Yao possessed deep red-colored hair. In the midst of the beautiful deep red snowflakes, killing intent rose. "So pretty," He Mei couldn't help but say with bright eyes. "They aren't just pretty." Sang Nan's gaze had not moved a bit as he reflexively answered. Around him, many people also had similar expressions of seriousness. They all saw the killing intent contained in these beautiful snowflakes. Ming Yuyi did not speak. Her face was calm, but in her blue eyes that were like the vast sky, shock flashed imperceptibly. "He's moving." He Mei's eyes became even brighter. "Whoa, so pretty to look at." No one spoke, but in their eyes, astonishment flashed. It really was good to look at. The troops did not advance quickly. As they moved, the Yao spectators found the army was divided into 6 enormous circles. The 6 circles slowly spun as they moved forward. What was even more amazing was that the snowflakes in each circle was also slowly spinning. Thousands of deep red snowflakes moving in synchrony was really pleasing to see. But when it entered the eyes of Sang Nan and the others, their expressions changed. Even the battle generals that had been so disdainful unconsciously stood up straight. Their bodies reflexively became tense. Shock flew through their eyes and took over. Such a powerful consciousness. Pu Yao snickered with smugness. Xiuzhe, Yao, and Mo all have battle generals, but there are differences among the three. The battle generals of Xiuzhe are most skilled in divination and prediction. The Great Development Calculating Method and such all do this. Mo battle generals emphasize bravery and spirit. A powerful Mo battle general can gather the presences of the entire troop into one body. That really can destroy mountains. And Yao battle generals? Their most powerful skill is the consciousness. Consciousness. Zuermo did not understand. After he found the strange fact that Gong Sun Shidi had talent as a battle general, he hadn't spent any more effort in that field. Battle generals with powerful consciousness can detect great details. All of the battlefield is in their mind. Even more, the consciousness is a network. He is able to send an order to every combat Yao. The entire army is like his body and can be directed at will. Zuermo finally understood. Gong Sun Shidi is this strong. But right now, the powerful consciousness and precise control that Xiao Mo Gu displayed showed that he was a true battle general. A battle general that treated battle like it was a child's game and only wanted to satisfy the audience. Such a figure instantly provoked hatred from them. As the match started, almost all the battle generals were on Yu Heng's side. They hoped sincerely that Corps Commander Yu Heng would give this clown a stern lesson. Some battle generals gave Xiao Mo Gu the title of the embarrassment of battle generals. Listening to the scorn of his fellows, Sang Nan shook his head inside. He did not feel that Xiao Mo Gu had created this strange snowflake formation to purposefully be shocking, even though he did not understand why Xiao Mo Gu had formed it in the first place. There was a feeling of danger that hung over his mind. He looked at Ming Yuyi Darren. Ming Yuyi was focused on the strange army. Sang Nan's mind moved. Darren, do you feel? Ming Yuyi did not move her gaze. She raised her hand. Look. Following Darren's finger, he hurriedly turned his face. He saw Xiao Emoji's troops suddenly accelerate. They were like an avalanche, one that was composed of many spinning snowflakes. The scornful conversation of his fellows suddenly stopped. Sang Nan perceived their silence. His attention was locked onto the rapidly advancing troop. For some reason, the feeling of danger he had felt earlier increased. He wasn't the only one that felt the danger. In the rolling avalanche, every snowflake was furiously spinning like deep red snowflake-shaped blades, densely packed together and moving in layers. Sharp killing intent was displayed without any pretense. In front of this rapidly spinning wave of blades, almost everyone had unconsciously stopped breathing. Low against the ground, the deep red, sharp snowflake flood drifted forward at astounding speeds. Just the presence of the troops was enough to stun everyone. Sang Nan, who was staring hard at the deep red flood of blades, suddenly felt his eyelid jump. He suddenly raised his head and he had an expression of disbelief. The direction of this flood was pointing directly at Yu Heng's main base. Chapter 411, Juxtaposition. How had he found the position of Yu Heng's main base? It wasn't just Sang Nan that was surprised. Many battle generals quickly detected this. Every person who did notice couldn't help but show a startled look. Xiao Emoji's soldiers were all flame-boring Yao, a soldier type that functioned poorly as a scout. But beyond this, Xiao Mo Gu hadn't performed any scouting but had found the other's location. This guy, a battle general said emotionally, has great luck. The other battle generals nodded, randomly marching in a direction, and it was the correct direction. His luck was astoundingly good. Listening to the discussion around him, Sang Nan did not speak. He was uncertain inside. He could not tell if Xiao Mo Gu really was just lucky. To not need scouts and still be able to grasp the geography of the board, it only required that your consciousness was strong enough. But this kind of perception was not limitless. The bigger the battlefield, the larger the consciousness had to be to accomplish this. In large-scale battles, the information obtained by a battle general's consciousness was like a drop in the ocean. A large number of scouts were needed to get a sufficient amount of information. For any battle general, information on the battlefield was what they based their commands on. Sang Nan had never seen a battle general that did not need to send out any scouts, and the strangest thing was that the other actually determined the correct direction. At this moment, even he believed that this person had great luck. But why did he still have a foreboding sense of danger? Gong Sun Cha's consciousness was spread out like a net. Everything within 50 li was within his grasp. He quickly found the remaining traces of presence in the air. This was a presence he was unfamiliar with, and different than any combat Yao he had encountered before. It should be a soldier type he had not seen before. He narrowed his eyes. Amongst the burning desire for battle, the light of calm flashed. His consciousness silently rippled. Without pausing, the snowflake avalanche made a smooth and sharp turn. Advancing in a wave like spilled mercury, they silently and rapidly advanced. A seemingly simple maneuver caused a wave of exclamations. Even Pu Yao's eyes flashed with a thread of shock. Directing troops to turn at high speed was a basic skill of a battle general. The more people there were, the harder it was. The faster the maneuver was, the harder it was. This was a move that every battle general could do, and one of the moves that strained and tested the fundamental skills of a battle general. Silver battle generals needed to easily control about 1,000 combat Yao to complete a turn at high speed. 5,000 was the requirement of a golden battle general. Was this guy already at the skill level of a golden battle general? Gong Sun Shidi's consciousness is really nimble. Zuermo couldn't help but praise. Even though he did not understand the intricacies of being a battle general, he could see the wonders of it with a glance. To give orders to 5,000 people at once didn't just require a strong consciousness, it required a sensitive one. There was no wonder why Zuermo was shocked. Fine manipulations like this were something he had been the most skilled at. No matter if it was Ling power or consciousness, he could not be considered strong, but he was always abnormally sensitive. Is it the fiend's soul beast beads? Pu Yao said to himself. The consciousness control that Gong Sun Cha displayed far surpassed his skill in the last match. He had progressed this quickly in such a short amount of time? The first thing that Pu Yao thought of was the fiend's soul beast beasts because he knew that Gong Sun Cha had been furiously consuming fiend's soul beast beads in this past while. Could fiend's soul beast beads cause the consciousness to become more sensitive? Pu Yao's guess was not incorrect. Gong Sun Cha's consciousness had changed due to these fiend's soul beast beads. Gong Sun Cha's talent in cultivation was very average, and greatly limited his development as a battle general. He had spent great thought to create his own battle general core scripture, but being of average talent, the rate of improvement could not satisfy him. He misstarted his crazy cultivation plan when he had joyfully discovered that processing fiend soul beast beads were of benefit to his consciousness. He spent almost all of his time on processing the fiend soul beast beads, and around this time, the hunting missions had also begun. A continuous hunting made so he did not need to worry about the supply of fiend soul beast beads. When it came to a problem regarding being a battle general, the shy and bashful Lil Miss would accidentally display his insanity. This time was not an exception. Before he even understood the fiend soul beast beads, he had unhesitatingly gambled with himself. Because he knew that if he wanted to progress, he had to solve the problem of his weak consciousness. He desired victory. For victory, he was willing to take greater risks. He had gambled correctly. His consciousness had grown 3 times and was now much more sensitive than before. Fiend soul beast beads? Zuemo also showed a thoughtful expression. He suddenly thought about the golden souls he possessed. He had been busy this while. Other than the ones used by Gong Sun Shidi, Pu Yao, and Wei, he had not used the other golden souls. He had really been too busy and forgotten such an important thing. Zuermo couldn't help but mock himself. On the board, Gong Sun Cha's speed was extremely fast. Following the minuscule remnants of presence, the enormous flame-boring Yao army was like a red flow of snow that snaked its way towards the opponent's base. It wasn't luck. Sang Nan's heart beat wildly. The other battle generals also saw the strangeness. That's weird. This boy can't be lucky with every decision. How can he be right every time? That's so strange. Does this guy have a dog's nose? Even a dog can't do this. The sounds of discussions rose. Mei's face was puzzled. She wasn't a battle general and she was confused listening to the discussion. She asked Sang Nan curiously, "What are they speaking about?" Sang Nan patiently explained, "They are speaking about how Xiao Mo knew the position of Yu Heng's main base without using scouts." Right. Mei realized. No wonder I felt something was weird. I didn't see Xiao Mo's scouts. She then asked confusedly, "How can Xiao Mo know the position of Yu Heng's main camp without using scouts?" Sang Nan said in a quiet voice, "Flame-boring Yao are not suited to being scouts. Their speed isn't slow, but it isn't fast. Even more important is that they cannot conceal themselves. Xiao Mo probably has a secret technique that can find the presence that the other scouts have left behind." The surrounding conversation stopped. Everyone listened keenly. Sang Nan was greatly talented and had once received the title of Best Young Battle General 3 years in a row. The amount of trophies and titles he had won was incomparable to most of his peers. Of the young generation of battle generals, he would definitely rank in the top 5. Many of the elders in the military thought highly of him. He had unexpectedly become Ming Yuye's follower and had given up the chance to become a commander of a corps, which had caused his reputation to fall greatly. These past few years, he had rarely appeared in public, but stayed low-key by Ming Yuye's side. But no one would doubt the title of the first battle general of the Genius Alliance. Look closely. The advancing path of Xiao Mo is the route one of Yu Heng's scouts had just taken while retreating. Everyone finally showed expressions of realization. No wonder he could make such accurate decisions. Xiao Mo had such a powerful secret technique. At this time, this red snowflake flood encountered some of Yu Heng's scouts. Yu Heng had found Xiao Mo's position long ago. In order to obtain more information, he had sent more scouts in this direction. When these scouts saw the troops, they couldn't help but be shocked and then instantly started to retreat. Some scouts attempted to plant messenger trees and pass the news back to the camp. But Gong Sun Cha would not give them the chance. With a wave of his hand, his troops instantly overwhelmed their scouts. These scouts did not have the time to send back their reports before they died. Seeing this, the other scouts ran even quicker. Gong Sun Cha did not hesitate. He directed his troops to closely follow behind these scouts. He maintained an appropriate distance and did not give them the chance to plant messenger trees. In the Yao world, information was sent mostly using messenger trees. Scouts would carry the seeds of messenger trees on them. They only needed to plant the seeds, and the messenger tree would sprout and grow in a very brief period of time to fruit and produce seed. The fruit of the messenger tree would shatter into a multicolored mist that would turn the information into pictures and sound to transport it back. It was possible to exchange information using the seeds of one messenger tree. It was very convenient, but there was a flaw: it required time. It took about 15 minutes for the seed to grow and bear fruit. Normally, 15 minutes wasn't anything, but in times of urgency and danger, this 15 minutes became a fatal flaw. The scouts right now lacked the required 15 minutes. Gong Sun Cha's troops suddenly divided up. The troops that had been like a flood suddenly divided into 6 large snowflakes. Each large snowflake was made from about 800 flame-boring Yao. They were like 6 high-speed blades. The troops on the right and left wings began flanking the enemy, forming an arc that tightly followed the scouts and forced them together. One group running and one group chasing. After 1 hour of this chase, Gong Sun Cha's troops reached the outskirts of Yu Heng's main base. All the Yao gaped at this scene. What strategy was this? In war chess that was larger in scale, the struggle between the two sides would usually take 40 to 60 hours, or even longer. The vast geography was enough space allowed for deeper strategies and to outflank each other. The two sides usually needed to experience multiple rounds of spying, probing, skirmishes, and to pressure and squeeze each other's territory before the final battle. For this war chess match that was of a much grander scale, many battle generals had prepared to watch for 3 days and nights. But Xiao Mo that never acted within the expected norms, and this time was not an exception. He didn't construct a base, didn't plant Yao trees. Upon starting, he took all his troops and charged straight at the other's main camp. What strategy was this? Such a hooligan. A battle general unconsciously murmured, but this caused all the battle generals that felt suffocated to suddenly breathe properly. Right? Hooligan. This was a hooligan. Only those hooligans that did not care about technique and fought on the street would be like this, taking all their people and charging straight at the front gates. Sang Nin felt he had swallowed a fly. His entire body felt uncomfortable. Xiao Emoji's snowflake-shaped formation moved like it was a bolt of lightning that tore the clouds apart, and this stunned him. The secret technique he used was also unfathomable. All the signs lead him to be filled with anticipation about the following battle. But that kind of anticipation definitely was not for this unreasonable charge on the front gates. Right, it was unreasonable. He seemed to be watching a skilled sword warrior who, after a string of dazzling sword moves, suddenly threw away his treasured sword and take up the pig-butchering cleaver and howling as he savagely charged. Where was the strategy? Tactics? Technique? The strong juxtaposition was so uncomfortable Sang Nin almost spat blood. At this time, Gong Sun Cha did not pause and directly started his attack. In Sang Nan's eyes, the beauty of the snowflakes and everything else disappeared. He seemed to see a snarling butcher smile as he hacked, with the pig-butchering cleaver, at the other's head like he was killing a pig. Chapter 412, Collide. Unlike Sang Nan and the others who wanted to spit blood, Zuomo's eyes lit up as he watched. His blood was boiling. He wanted to charge straight at the other's main base with them. How exhilarating it would be! It would be so pleasurable. Those dazzling tactics were nice to look at, but this kind of straightforward charge suited Zuomo's temper. Gong Sun Cha did not think so much. These strange actions and choices in other people's eyes were actually made out of his helplessness. He didn't understand anything about strategic things like Yao trees. If it was any other person, they definitely would not accept this unfair match. But Gong Sun Cha never thought about fairness. When had battle ever been fair? The seemingly crazy Gong Sun Cha was icy cold inside. He knew the longer the battle took, the more disadvantageous it was for him. So when he had finished organizing his troops, he charged towards the other's camp without a moment's pause. Right now was the moment the difference between the two forces was the smallest. As time went on, the gap in strength between the two forces would grow. He also knew that against the mysterious person, charging like this definitely wouldn't end well. But with no other choice, he could only harden himself and charge. Gong Sun Cha had almost frightened Yu Heng. He actually didn't manage to react. What strategy was this? His face was bewildered. Having served many years in the military, Yu Heng was skilled in all kinds of tactics and had fought against many experts. Naturally, he had fought against those who were unconventional. But even those abnormally acting experts had just used unconventional gambits. It was possible to determine the intentions behind their maneuvers. War chess had developed over so many years, and the large amounts of tactics had all been studied. Which opening moves to use in a match was an issue that had been studied the most. There were all kinds of strategies. Many of them were popular for a time, but as time went on and these strategies were fully studied, their weaknesses were exposed, each became less useful. Then they were gradually replaced by new strategies. Yu Heng's opening method was a variation on the classic three-division opening method. It put a third of his forces into development, one-third into defense, and one-third to act as needed. The three-division setup was equalized, had outstanding defense, and great developmental potential over time. It was a very popular and classic opening method. Yu Heng's three divisions had a few changes focused on the combinations of soldier types, combinations that had made people's eyes light up in awe. The troops he used to defend and those he reserved to act freely could freely interact and support each other. This unique adjustment caused the Yu style's three-division opening method to become even stronger. All the spectators changed expressions upon seeing this, and it was possible to see how skilled Yu Heng was. But Yu Heng, who was skilled in all kinds of strategies, never thought the other would charge straight to his door like a brute. Was he suicidal? Pausing, Yu Heng instantly reacted. The offensive power of the three-division opening method was not extremely strong, but the defensive power was not weak. So Yu Heng felt disbelief, but he did not panic. His main base had been finished, and the defensive capabilities had been increased. Even if the other's entire army came to attack, he had enough confidence that he could hold against the other. However, he still was cautious. Using just the power the other had, it was an impossible mission to attack a completed main camp. Yu Heng believed that Xiao Emogu also understood this. Even more, he kept on feeling that Xiao Emoji's purely flame-boring Yao army was a scheme. Xiao Emogu definitely had something else planned, and that would be the true killing move. He believed his judgment. He did not believe that Xiao Emogu had only picked flame-boring Yao. Yu Heng was careful as he directed the troops to advance as he prepared to counter against any move that would appear. On the other side, Gong Sun Cha's mind was unprecedentedly focused. Other people only saw him pursuing Yu Heng's scouts. They did not know that inside the seemingly smooth flow of troops, Gong Sun Cha was continuously familiarizing himself with this new troop formation. Every bit of familiarity he gained could add a small chance of success. Fortunately, he had pondered the snowflake formation for a long time and was not completely unfamiliar with it. As he raced all this way, it became easier to move everything according to his will. This pursuit was like warm-up. When he reached Yu Heng's main base, just having finished his warm-up, Gong Sun Cha's presence and attention was at its peak. The snowflake flood that just reached the outskirts of the main base suddenly accelerated. They were like a bundle of saw blades that suddenly tore at the main base. At the same time, Gong Sun Cha's eyes suddenly lit up. His spread-out consciousness shook. This vibration seemed to create ripples and rapidly transferred to every corner of the consciousness web. The red snowflake's center suddenly lit up and gave off a blinding red light. The red light spread at astounding speed. It seemed to be like flowing metal liquid that flowed along the pathways of the snowflake originating from its center and quickly reached the tip of each snowflake branch. When more than 800 flame-boring Yao cast fire Yao arts at the same time, the heat produced twisted the air. This caused the shape of the snowflake to look somewhat warped. What was even more stunning was that each flame-boring Yao was situated among the high-speed spinning snowflake. Each was like a burning hot blade that was furiously humming. Everyone was shocked at the presence given off by the flame-boring Yao. Everyone had used flame-boring Yao before, but they had never seen such an intimidating presence. Yu Heng's expression changed dramatically as his troops were struck. The presence suddenly exuded by the enemy surpassed his imagination. Why was it like this? He had always assumed that the enemy's first wave of attack was definitely a feint. The true threat to him was the ambush that was to come later, so he had only sent a small portion of his army to face the enemy. The majority of his troops were waiting for the hidden enemy. The suddenly fierce attack was like a storm that came without warning. 6 large snowflakes with burning and sharp howls furiously charged his base. The moment the two sides collided, countless blinding lights shot up. Like 6 burning red saws, in the midst of ear-piercing shrieking, sparks shot out like a rain. The sky seemed to be illuminated by the rising fire Yao arts. Not good. Yu Heng's heart skipped a beat. His body wavered. In his wide pupils, a thread of disbelief flashed. The other really was using only flame-boring Yao. The other truly was attacking with all of his forces. All of his predictions, all of the judgments, they were all wrong. 2 successive basic assumptions had been incorrect. From any angle, these were likely fatal. In order to reserve more to face the later attacks of the enemy, he had preserved the majority of his power. This meant that the number of combat Yao on the front lines that were facing the flame-boring Yao was too few. The difference in power was too large. Famed for its attacking power, the flame-boring Yao pressed their advantage to their limit. The 6 troops were like 6 snowflake-shaped heated saws that penetrated his troops like butter, cutting through them without any effort. Forced to the precipice, Yu Heng displayed his outstanding tactical training. Facing this situation with his troops on the verge of collapse, he rapidly calmed down. Even though he had not expected that the other would use all his power on the first wave of attack, but he also did not hesitate to engage with all of his forces. His expression resumed normality as he quickly adjusted the troops. The troops under his command seemed to explode. They turned to several hundred little troops that quickly spread out into every corner of the base. Relying on the defensive capabilities of the base, these little teams were very nimble. Like packs of wolves, they continuously harassed the enemy troops. The situation quickly stabilized. The snowflake formation that encountered resistance had slowed down its advance. Powerful! Sangnan couldn't help but clap in praise. Xiao Emoji's intimidating attack had almost got him to stop breathing. Yu Heng's following reaction was based on the principle of using to softness to subdue hardness. To be able to stabilize the situation in such a chaotic state, Yu Heng really lived up to his reputation. This collision was short, but extremely fierce. After the short exchange, Yu Heng only had 2,600 combat Yao remaining. His losses could be called immense. Xiao Emoge had 4,000 combat Yao left. He seemed to have the advantage of numbers, but their speed had been halted by Yu Heng. Adding on that they were deep in enemy territory, they now had to face the defensive weapons of the enemy camp. Flame-boring Yao were very weak defensively, and it was undoubtedly very dangerous to be caught in such a situation. Looking at it that way, the two sides had once again reached a certain equilibrium. All the battle generals were staring unblinkingly. Such a fierce collision usually only happened in the final stages of a match. Many of them even forgot to breathe. None of them had expected that seemingly pretty but useless snowflake formation would be so sharp. All of the battle generals were stunned. No one doubted Xiao Emoji's battle general skills any longer. Such an extreme breakthrough, if it appeared on the battlefield, was the nightmare of the enemy. However, battle generals with some skill could see the danger that Xiao Emoge was now facing. Yu Heng had relied on his experience as a commander to transform his main base into a quagmire. Even the sharpest saw was bogged down while facing this swamp. What would Xiao Emoge do? This question appeared in the observers' minds at the same time. But no one knew that Gong Sun Cha, who appeared to be in a dangerous situation, did not feel he was in danger. Once the two sides had engaged, Gong Sun Cha perceptively realized that his opponent was not the mystery expert he usually faced. The two styles were too far apart. Most importantly, Gong Sun Cha could not feel the overbearing pressure that was usually present, did not feel like there was a rope constantly strangling his neck. Being used to Pu Yao's suffocating pressure, Gong Sun Cha felt he was a fish in the water when he faced Yu Heng and was able to breathe freely. Everyone thought that Yu Heng had stabilized the situation, and Xiao Emoge had landed in danger. What they did not understand was that for a battle general like Gong Sun Cha that struggled constantly under Pu Yao's abuse, what would it mean when there wasn't enough pressure put on him? It meant that Gong Sun Cha's hands were unbound. Having such freedom, how terrifying could Gong Sun Cha be? Before today, no one knew. Lacking this pressure, Gong Sun Cha felt it was very unfamiliar. This unfamiliar feeling deeply stimulated Gong Sun Cha. His eyes became brighter. As his messy hair brushed across his face, a light bashful smile came to the corner of his mouth. An imperceptible vibration passed to every flame-boring Yao along the invisible consciousness web. The strangulation had started. Chapter 413, Snowflake Strangulation Kill. Snowflake Strangulation Kill. This was the name Gong Sun Cha gave to this new battle tactic. Today was the first day he showed off its edges. Just as everyone was sighing over the powerful charge it had made, none of them knew that the reason Lil Miss had created the Snowflake Strangulation Kill was to compensate for the fact that the 3-section wave killing charge lacked lasting power. In other words, the charges and defensive line breakthroughs that everyone exclaimed over was not the best attribute of this battle tactic. Its best quality was strangulation kill. The 6 large snowflakes suddenly crumbled and turned to many smaller snowflakes. They did not move in a defined formation anymore. These tiny snowflakes were like a flood that streamed into every pore and crack. Their rate of advance was not quick, but gave people the feeling their advance was unavoidable. The small snowflakes composed of 6 flame-boring Yao furiously spun. Fire Yao arts were prepared on their hands. Once they encountered an enemy, they would attack. Their attacking method was very unique. As they spun quickly, the 6 flame boring Yao would move, and while rotating positions to release the fire Yao art in their hands, it became a ruler straight stream of fire. This was a stream of fire composed of fire Yao arts. When the last flame boring Yao finished releasing the fire Yao art, the first flame boring Yao had finished casting a new fire Yao art. It was a continuous cycle of fire Yao arts. The stream of fire was endless. In front of this endless line of fire, the defensive Yao arts of the defensive troops were fragile as paper. They were not even able to delay the advance long enough to buy time for their comrades before dying. The combat soldier types that lacked protection died even quicker. Even more frightening was that each small snowflake would not fight by themselves. They would always have 2 to 3 little teams beside them. The middle team of the trio would fall back and form a reverse triangle. They would half surround the enemy and engulf them in their web of fire. The fire web made from the fire streams of the 3 teams increased their killing power. If 6 or 7 fire snowflakes fire streams shot out together, the fire web that formed robbed the enemy of all hope. The advancement of the flame boring Yao was not fast. They were moving slowly like molten lava. Everywhere they passed, everything turned to ash, and nothing was able to stop them. The fire streams crisscrossed like an enormous web. The enemies within the large web furiously casted Yao arts, but they were like insects caught on the spider's web. Any struggling was useless. Yu Heng's face was pale. The crisscrossing fire streams were like threads of death in his eyes. The number of troops under his command decreased at an astounding speed. He could see that the flame-boring Yao were also continuously falling to his defense as well, but Yu Heng's mouth was filled with bitterness. The rate that the others' numbers were lessening was far slower than his. Basically, 3 of his combat Yao would be traded for one of the others' combat Yao. He almost couldn't believe it. How was this the fragile flame-boring Yao? The other's consciousness was truly too strong. The speed that the flame-boring Yao at the very front perished was very fast, but when one in front perished, another flame-boring Yao from behind quickly took its place. The other's entire army was flowing smoothly like liquid. Other than that, every small snowflake still maintained its high-speed spinning. At the beginning, there had been 5,000 combat Yao, in more than 800 small snowflakes. Even with the losses, they maintained the completeness of their troop formation. This meant that their abilities were only marginally reduced and lead to the staggeringly one-sided ratio of damage each force was taking. But how strong of a consciousness was needed to do this? Yu Heng's face was ashen, his eyes began to dim. He knew he had been defeated, handily defeated. As the number of combat Yao under his command had lessened, the effectiveness of the base's defensive weapons had decreased. The others' flame-boring Yao were even able to pluck them out one structure at a time. He accepted his defeat. Even though Xiao Mog's move was completely different than what was in style now, but the person who could create such a battle tactic was undoubtedly a tactical genius. He understood that his 2 incorrect judgments had caused him to land in a defensive position. But what truly caused him to lose was this new battle tactic, was the other's powerful and un-Yao-like consciousness. Even if he was prepared to meet this burst of red snowflakes, he did not know how to defeat it. Yu Heng liked playing politics, but he had received a traditional battle general's education. His pride as a battle general was etched deeply into his bones. At this moment, he did not think about the result of losing his reputation. His heart was filled with the frustration of defeat, and his heart was truly akin to being dead, because this was a defeat where there was no excuse. Yu Heng is finished. Sang Nan sighed lightly, and his tone was slightly sorrowful. Personally seeing the fall of a golden battle general, faint sorrow came into his mind. His intuition was far more sensitive than the average battle general. Without seeing Yu Heng's face, he was still able to capture Yu Heng's loss of spirit and dead presence from some near imperceptible details on the battlefield. Each golden battle general had experienced countless tests, fights, and struggles. Maybe they had different backgrounds and skill levels, but each of them were truly the best. Once the heart of a battle general was dead, that meant they had fallen. Feeling that Yu Heng was probably dead at heart, sighs sounded out in many places, not just from Sang Nan. Many of them had anticipated this battle, But no one had expected this battle would directly cause the fall of a golden battle general. For the great majority of people, this spectacular and dramatic battle satisfied their desires. The cause of this battle had long been forgotten. What people discussed the most was, of course, Xiao Emogu. In their view, Xiao Emogu had to be a gold battle general to have defeated Yu Heng. The prison-breaking battle and killing 26 Yao had given him the title of genius. Now they found this guy was actually a gold battle general. Xiao Emogu, who stepped on the corpse of another battle general, this gold battle general, was very substantial. It was no wonder that many Yao exclaimed, "Was this guy still Yao? Such a freak of a Yao, how many years would it take for one to appear? Too freaky." If everyone's discussion was limited to low-level Yao, then he was a hot topic. His name truly spread to every corner of the Yao world. In Wardom, everyone knew very well what a gold battle general meant. Even more, he was also so young. Adding on that his own strength was very outstanding, he had great potential, and even the possibility of achieving the position of a Sky Yao. Such a youth, could you demand him to be even more freakishly talented? Even the Genius Alliance that was said to have countless geniuses only had a handful of comparable geniuses. But the discussion of this battle had just begun. The amateurs watched the spectacle, the insiders discussed the technique. In the eyes of the battle generals, this battle had risen to the level of a classic. Xiao Emoji's use of the flame-boring Yao broke the norm. Before this, no one had ever thought that flame-boring Yao could be used like this. The meaning of this battle was not just on the flame-boring Yao. To these combat Yao, Xiao Emoji's creativity had opened a new window for them. The power of an unrelenting attack had attracted the attention of all battle generals. How to maintain the firepower of a troop became the hot topic of study for battle generals. When the battle generals came back to Studley, they found that the requirements of the consciousness in order to complete Xiao Emoji's snowflake tactic were very high. They suddenly realized just how terrifying Xiao Emoji's consciousness was. As the battle generals were studying, and the normal people were discussing interestedly, a piece of news struck like lightning. Yu Heng, whose heart had collapsed, had handed in his resignation and quit as the commander of the Heavy Earth Corps. Many of Yu Heng's good friends came to visit in hopes of comforting him. But when they saw Yu Heng, all of them paled. Yu Heng had shut himself into a small room, his expression dazed, and he did not react to anyone that spoke to him. Yu Heng was finished. The Jade family was finished. This news added a thick sense of tragedy to this battle. But soon no one paid attention to Yu Heng's news. Everyone's eyes would forever be on the victor. But Xiao Emogu seemed to have disappeared. This battle made Zwe Mo marvel, but more importantly, it allowed him to feel satisfaction. But only just that. It was just a war chess match. What was there to be excited about? Miss was completely unaffected. Because he knew the opponent was not the usual mysterious person. Even though he had won, he didn't feel any joy. It would probably take defeating Pu Yao to make him feel true joy. This battle had also caused him to think more on his newly created snowflake tactic. Once the battle ended, he burrowed into the camp, all his thoughts on the new tactic. As to Pu Yao and Wei, this small victory held no value in their eyes. The victory that caused great waves in the Yao world didn't create a single ripple on Zwe Mo's side. This matter was perfectly resolved, and Zwe Mo could finally put his complete attention on how to leave this ghastly place. From the information he got from Mingju Zi, they needed to find the center of the battlefield. If they found the center, they could be able to find the damaged Jie River. That way, they could be able to leave the ancient battlefield. So Zwe Mo instantly sent out the mobilization order. The entire group departed for the deepest part of the fiendish mist. Everyone's morale rose. They had set up camp at this place for a long time. They had put the majority of their attention on their cultivation, but they couldn't help but feel desperate inside. They were like hungry beasts that had been trapped for a long time, and all of them howled. So when the order came down, everyone became excited. They had become increasingly familiar with the surrounding environment after hunting fiend soul beasts in the recent while. The feeling of terror that they had when they first entered this ancient battlefield had disappeared long ago. These people that were daring to start with were eager and wanted to charge at the very front. But Zhuemo and the others that knew all of the information were not so optimistic. In an ancient battlefield that was tens of thousands years old, were the vicious beasts it created only at this skill level. Chapter 414 Fiend Corpse Reality proved that the worries Zhuemo and the others had were well-founded. The first 2 days of the journey went smoothly, but they encountered trouble on the third day. The vicious being they encountered had a human-shaped figure. It looked like a zombie. It had a human-shaped primate facing them, had a vicious pair of eyes that glimmered with red light. Its entire body, including its face, was covered in fur. What was strangest was that the color of its fur was not uniform. Instead, the multicolored fur created a complex and exquisite pattern that was like an unknown formation. There was a skull hanging from its waist. It seemed to be made of jade or porcelain. There seemed to be a ball of black mist that floated at the empty eye sockets. Careful, this is a fiend corpse. From the tone of Pu Yao's warning, Zhuemo instantly understood this thing called a fiend corpse was posed an extraordinary danger. He had just watched as at least 3 flying swords chopped at the fiend corpse's body. Other than causing a few sparks, the attacks didn't leave behind any mark, and the rebound had almost caused the attackers harm instead. Everyone, including Zhuemo, leapt forward. Wei Sheng, Xie Shan, and the others hurried forward to help. The fiend corpse instantly retreated as his initial attack had not succeeded. Its right hand was pressed against the skull on its waist. Its eyes flashed with red light and its gaze was tightly locked onto Wei Sheng. It seemed to understand that Wei Sheng was the greatest threat to it. When its gaze landed on the broken sword in Wei Sheng's hands, the red light grew, and the fiendish mist roiled. The fiend corpse's presence shocked Zhuemo. He hurriedly asked Pu Yao, "What is a fiend corpse?" Corpses left in areas of dense fiendish energy do not easily rot. The fiendish energy enters the corpse and forms a fiend corpse. You have to be careful, this fiendish corpse isn't simple. Pu Yao's tone was grave. Along the way here, there were no traces of corpses. Over time, even the bones had turned to dust. The formation of black fiendish energy takes time, at least hundreds of years. Meaning corpse was able to stay preserved for hundreds of years. Either it has the help of a treasure, or the corpse itself is strange. Treasure? Zhuemo's gaze floated instantly to the skull on the fiend corpse's waist. Was this skull a treasure? When he looked at the fur on the fiend corpse's body that was like a formation, he felt Pu Yao's other speculation was also possible. Facing the fiend corpse, Wei Sheng's expression was serious. The pressure he sensed from the fiend corpse was beyond anything he had previously experienced. Ever since he had stepped into the stage of Jindan, his power had multiplied. This increase wasn't just in cultivation, it included growth in sword essence and his mentality. He had to spend large amounts of time to stabilize his cultivation. This increase in power had caused the fiend soul beasts to become less pressuring to him. But the fiend corpse in front of him, Wei Sheng could not feel even a thread of its presence. If he wasn't staring at it with his eyes, it would seem there was nothing where the fiend corpse was standing. This shocked him. The only thing that he knew that could do this were 5th-grade Ling beasts. 5th-grade Ling beasts could form void covers and hide their presences. This fiend corpse wasn't a Ling beast, not even a Yao beast, but definitely was above 5th grade. Vicious beings above 5th grade could only be faced by Xiuzhe in Jindan or above. Zhuemo had killed a bloody horned great serpent before, but that one had been forced to form. It only just touched the boundary of 5th grade. The fiend corpse in front of them was definitely not a normal 5th grade vicious being. It could possibly be 6th grade. In the world, other than Xiuzhe, Yao, and Emo, there were all kinds of beings. For these living beings, grades were used to categorize their power. The space shield of 5th grade, the space boundary of 6th grade, the space source of 7th grade, and the scape spirit of 8th grade. The 9th and 10th grades were existences that almost were undefeatable and immortal. Each grade had upper, intermediate, and lower divisions. With 5th grade as an example, the lower level could just form the space shield. The space shield that formed was also very unstable. Intermediate 5th grade had a basic and complete space shield, and started to form new transformations. When it came to upper 5th grade, the space shield was almost perfect, and many transformation could be comprehended. Intermediate 5th grade, Yi Zheng exclaimed. His face instantly became pale white. Being from a great sect, Yi Zheng's knowledge was much broader than a country bumpkin like Zuemo. He instantly recognized the power of the fiend corpse. When he spoke, he frightened everyone. It had to be said that in all the major Xiuzhijie, the danger any Ling beasts or vicious being posed was clear. 4th grade vicious beings were very rare, much less intermediate 5th grade vicious beings. Even Yi Zheng, who was from Great Buddha Temple, was frightened. Large sects like Great Buddha Temple naturally did not lack Ling beasts. Not just 5th grade, the temple even raised a few 6th grade Ling beasts. But the 5th and 6th grade Ling beasts raised in the temple were harmless babies when compared to this fiend corpse that had formed over tens of thousands of years. With one look at the fiend corpse, a bone-aching coldness jumped into Yi Zheng's heart. Wei Sheng's expression did not change. He did not blink, and the broken sword in his hand did not waver even a sliver. The fiend corpse stared at Wei Sheng, baring his teeth and displaying a vicious expression. Its right hand was still pressed against the skull on its waist. The Xiuzhi around Wei rapidly retreated backwards. Xie Shan, Zhong Ru, Su Long, and the others came forward and loosely surrounded the fiend corpse. The mood became increasingly more tense. Zuomo's heart suddenly jumped, and his eyes lit up. He urgently shouted, "Xie Shan, Zhong Ru, Shu Long, guard the other directions. Be wary of other vicious beings." The trio's hearts shook. They rapidly retreated but were still late. "Careful! Enemy attack!" Chaotic shouts came from the rear and flanks. At this moment everyone's expression changed, including Zuemo, diverting attention to the front to attack the back. This fiend corpse understood misdirection. At this moment, the eyes of the fiend corpse facing off with Wei Sheng flashed with red light, and its figure suddenly disappeared. Clang! A crisp sound of a metallic collision rang out so the whole camp could hear. Wei Sheng had raised the broken sword and as he firmly parried the other's claw. At some unknown time, the fiend's soul's 10 fingers had grown into sharp white bone claws. Clang, clang, clang. The collisions were as rapid as raindrops. Some Xiuzhi who had not been prepared felt their ears ring. The fiend corpse and Wei Sheng turned to two balls of shadow that chased about in the air. Everyone was unable to track their shadows. The fiend corpse's bone claws and Wei Sheng's broken sword crossed and matched. At this time, Zuomo's expression changed slightly. Damn it! There wasn't just one vicious being that was attacking them from behind. Looking at Wei Sheng, who was in fierce combat against the fiend corpse, Zuemo gritted his teeth, turned and charged towards the back. He believed that with eldest Shixiang's power, even if he could not defeat the fiend corpse, he could slow down the other. If the vicious being that was ambushing form the back was 5th grade as well, then it was a calamity for the others. Other than the few that had their core formations, everyone else was Ningmai. Ningmai Xiuzhi in front of 5th grade Yao beasts were as weak as lettuce. This wasn't something that numbers could change. The difference in power was too great. If one 5th grade Yao beast charged in, blood would flow in rivers. Thinking about it, Zuomo's eyes instantly became red. In name, everyone in this group were his subordinates, but in his heart, they were fellows he could give his life to. 6. Damn it. There were 6. The damned group. Halfway in the air, Zuemo suddenly bellowed. The furious howl was like thunder that suddenly spread. The golden yellow and fiery red flame seal armor quickly wrapped around Zuemo at a rate visible to the naked eye. The half-transparent and gossamer thin golden wings formed silently behind him like they were drawn by an invisible pen. Zuomo's figure disappeared from the air. An enormous shadow covered a one. Within the fiendish mist, there seemed to be a small mountain moving towards him. The ground was rumbling, and pebbles were furiously bouncing. Awen tightly gripped his black spear. His young face was expressionless like the most practiced hunter. Having survived the dueling stadium, Awen might be young, but he had gone through hundreds of fights, and was one that truly climbed out of piles of corpses. But this unknown monster had pressured him to the point he almost couldn't breathe. Even though the other had not attacked yet, Owen was clear this feeling would occur when the enemy's strength was far greater than his. However, he did not retreat because this big guy had wounded several of his brothers. Shu Long was not present, and he was the strongest one present out of guard camp. If he ran now, the other people would directly face this big guy. Then only death awaited them. What should he do? His mind moved quickly. Use his speed to slow down this big guy? At this time, the enormous shadow within the fiendish mist revealed its true face. Owen's pupils suddenly shrank. An ugly sand puppet with the body of a small mountain that was at least 20 zhang. In front of it, Owen was like an ant. It seemed to move very slowly, but it was able to move over a large distance with each step. Many small flows of sand surrounded it like mist. So ugly! Awei twisted his mouth. He knew his plan of using speed to slow down the other was no longer viable. However, a cold light suddenly flashed through Owen's eyes. He suddenly raised the black spear in his hand. Hardship guard. Owen's angry shout jolted the confused and disorganized guard camp and quickly calmed them down. They were well trained. After the initial confusion, they quickly organized themselves. When they saw the youngest among them, Owen, standing at the front, these men felt their blood rise up, their necks turned red, and tendons bulging. Without any orders, just like normal, they quickly formed the Crow Fiend Mo killing formation. The spear that Owen had raised was now tilted downwards towards his side. With both his hands grasping the spear, he pointed the tip of the spear straight at the enormous sand puppet that was approaching. All of the hardship guards understood Owen's meaning instantly. These men that had felt shame at their panic furiously channeled into the formation. Immediately, the fiendish mist was like water that furiously flooded the formation. The fiendish mist that was absorbed into the Crow Fiend Mo killing formation only left behind small threads of black mist. The slender black mist swam and gathered in one direction, towards the very front of the formation, the individual standing with his spear, Owen. Chapter 415 Crowd of Monsters. This was the first time Owen was leading the formation. This position had previously been Shu Long's. The inky black mist was moving towards him like slender snakes. They gathered from all corners of the formation onto Owen's body. In an instant, Owen was covered in the snake-like mist. His body was shrouded in mist, and his figure became indistinct. It was the first time that Owen had felt as though his body was going to explode. The power was restlessly stirring inside his body, and was trying to escape. The Surge PF pure killing essence was like waves that battered at his mind. Along with the cold and dark killing essence came a darkness. The world within his view had become dark. A strong feeling of murderousness rose. He had the impulse to destroy everything. But that lasted for just an instant and Owen recovered clarity. In that one instant, the world became a blur in his eyes. Owen couldn't help but feel afraid. The situation just now had been extremely dangerous. In their daily cultivation, Shu Long had repeatedly warned them not to lose themselves in killing essence. Once they were lost in killing essence, they would become monsters that only knew to kill. Having climbed out of the dueling stadium, Owen's talents were not just outstanding, he was also mentally stronger than the great majority of people. He had never encountered such a dangerous loss of control in his daily cultivation. This was one reason that his progression was far faster than his fellows. But the killing essence that had flooded in had been too great and almost drowned him. Feeling afraid from this experience, Owen became even more careful. However, he had never led the formation before today, so he could only think back to how Shu Long usually acted. He quickly found that mimicking Shu Long was not as simple as he had imagined. It required special methods to control such a vast amount of killing essence. Damn it! When will the three of them regain consciousness? A member of the Sky Peak platoon sighed. These three are battle maniacs. They will definitely regret missing out on such a spectacular battle. They're seriously wounded. It's good that they are even alive. If it wasn't for Teacher Wei and the others arriving in time, they might not even be alive, a member beside him followed up. It's useless even if they are awake, another member inserted. Why are we just watching right now? We still can't join in? Damn it. Seems we need to try hard to get to Jindan. Us Sky Peak platoon can only stand aside and stare as the others battle. This is embarrassing. The other members felt great empathy with his words. In the past, the Sky Peak platoon had been the elite of Vermilion Bird Camp, comprised of sword shio that comprehended sword essence, peerless in offensive power. But as more members comprehended sword essence, their advantage was not as evident as it was in the past. In reality, their improvement was not minor. This could be seen from their cultivation. All of them had reached the third stratum of Ningmai. They looked to be one step away from Jindan, but it was not so easy to cross that step. While third stratum Shiojo were stronger than second stratum, the difference was not so definite. This placed them in an extremely awkward position. Isn't it so? When we were glorious, those brats were still drinking milk. Don't mention the past, nothing to see there. If I say so, the way things are going, Sky Peak platoon is going to be dissolved sooner or later. Myas, you crow mouth. It's the truth. Look at the Shield Guard platoon. Zone Ru is Jindan. Our platoon doesn't have even one Jindan. No way. We need to think of something. Think of what? Jindan isn't lettuce, buying some when we want them. It's not that everyone isn't working hard, no one is slacking off, but our improvement is too slow. Now everyone was speechless. That was right. If Jindan was that easy to reach, it wouldn't be so valuable. These members hadn't forgotten. They were all wringing their minds thinking of ways to reach Jindan a little faster. But in the past, who among them had even dared to think they could become Jindan? All right, stay alert. Guard your position. Anything can wait until we are safe. Due to having 3 wounded members in Sky Peak platoon, so Gong Sun-cha had positioned them as the last line of defense to protect the Golden Crow camp that had little to no combat ability. This made them feel very terrible. Gong Sun-cha's expression was very ugly and filled with self-blame. He had been immersed in thoughts about that war chess match these days, which caused his response today to be slightly slow. If Suaremo had not reacted quickly, they would have fallen for the diversionary tactic of these monsters. If the Yao beasts had successfully ambushed them, then, without needing to think, Gong Sun-cha knew that the result definitely would have been terrible. He would be unpardonable. This serious mistake deeply stimulated the usually proud and victory-desiring Lil-ness. At the same time, fury erupted from his heart. Hunting, what the Yao beasts were using was a classic method used for hunting. They were being hunted by a group of Yao beasts. Only Miss Handsome Face was furious. There were 6 monsters in total. Other than the fiend corpse facing off against Wei Sheng and the sand puppet that was heading for a 1, the other people had also landed in hard battles. Fighting against Shu Long was an iron rhino. Xie Shan was facing a monster that had 6 bone spikes that jutted out of its back. Zhong Ru was facing a black ball of mist. Anzua Mo's target was a person. Using person to describe it was not accurate because there was no vitality in half of his body. This person's clothing was torn and his body seemed to be divided in 2. The right half had a 5-colored pattern that looked as though poisonous insects were climbing all over him and was startling to see. There was no light in the gray-white eyes that stared indifferently as Zhuo neared. Zhuo Mo's speed was very quick. Under the full force of the light void wings, he was like lightning. The strange person reached out with a finger. Zhuo felt his vision light up and fill with rainbow-colored light. A strong feeling of danger made every inch of his body uncontrollably shake. Pia. The beast service card on Zhuo Mo's waist flashed with light. A black butterfly appeared out of thin air in front of Zhuo Black Butterfly. Ever since it had entered the 4th grade, Zhuo felt the name of the rainbow mark butterfly was not suited for it and changed its name to Black Butterfly. The Black Butterfly had always stayed in the beast service card. This was the first time it had proactively came out of the beast service card. The black butterfly lightly flapped its wings. The rainbow energy was drawn in by an enormous suctioning force, gathering together and headed towards the black butterfly. The rainbow energy continuously entered the black butterfly. Zhuo was astounded. The tiny body of the black butterfly seemed to be a bottomless hole. All of the rainbow energy was sucked in. What made him feel this was even more fantastical was the clear joy the black butterfly was communicating to him. Was this light a poison? When Zhuomo's thought formed, the black butterfly in front of him danced as though it was agreeing with his speculation. Why are there so many fiend corpses? In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao frowned. Wei said lightly, "This is the battle of sealed extinction." Pu Yao instantly stopped speaking. Right? This was the sealed extinction battlefield. It was not strange for such a rare occurrence to appear here. Zhuomo did not think too much. Letting your mind be distracted by stray thoughts in battle was the same as seeking death. Judging that the strange person was using poison, Zhuomo's heart calmed down. The black butterfly was a fourth-grade poison butterfly. For it, poisons were like nutrients. Facing the strange person, no, maybe it was more appropriate to call it a strange corpse. It had the strongest power of this crowd of monsters, and should be upper fifth level. If the black butterfly was not here, Zhuomo would be in trouble today. The poison released by the fourth-grade black butterfly could already corrode Ling power. The poison that this strange corpse released should be even more powerful. ZZTZZTZZT. The beautiful five-colored energy spread from the feet of the strange corpse. The hard ground was quickly rotted, and a noxious smell spread. Zhuomo accidentally breathed in a thread. He instantly felt dizzy and was shocked inside. The black butterfly seemed to smell something delicious and furiously flapped its wings. The five-colored energy spreading on the ground floated up from the ground and continuously absorbed into the black butterfly. There wasn't any emotion in the strange corpse's gray eyes. It silently stared at the black butterfly as though it did not see that the black butterfly was continuously absorbing the poison it released. A thread of gray silently mixed into the rainbow energy. Along with the rainbow energy, it entered the body of the black butterfly. The black butterfly suddenly froze. A dot of gray suddenly appeared on its wings. A rotten presence of death spread out from the black butterfly. The flood waves killing essence continuously battered Wen's mind. Even more terrifying was that this power was still increasing. Owen had a strong sense of danger. If this kept going before the sand puppet had arrived, he would have lost control and exploded. Able to survive hundreds of battles, Owen definitely was not a person without intelligence. It was the opposite. He had astounding battle intuition. Since he could not use Shu Long's method, then he would use his own. He carefully controlled the rushing killing essence, but the effect was minuscule. This burst of killing essence was truly too large. It was like a rushing river, and in front of it he was tiny. This made him realize just how small his own strength was. If he wanted to get this strong killing essence to move as he wanted, then he could only use the power it already had. This idea illuminated him. Gritting his teeth, he opened his mind. Boom! Endless killing essence howled and wailed as it swallowed him. His mind became blank for a short instant, but the last remaining thread of clarity allowed him to do one thing: raise the black spear in his hands. The vast killing essence seemed to find a vent, and furiously rushed towards the black spear in his hand. In other people's eyes, they only saw the black snakes wrapped around Owen's body furiously head towards the black spear as though there was something there attracting them. The black mist on Owen's body quickly lessened and revealed his armor. The black mist all gathered quickly on Owen's black spear without leaving a drop behind. Pew! The black mist shrouding the black spear seemed to be ignited. In a blink, the black mist on the entire spear started to burn. Owen's face twisted. He felt as though he was not holding the black spear, but a ball of fire. Almost unconsciously, he used all the power in his body and threw the burning black spear at the sand puppet. Chapter 416, Strange Corpse. When the gray mark on the black butterfly exuded a strong rotten smell, Zhuomo knew the situation was not well. Without hesitating, the midday blade in his hand sliced towards the strange corpse. The golden flame that shrouded the blade burst out along with this blow. It turned to a blinding crescent that leapt towards the strange corpse. Midday blade strike. Zhuomo knew that the opponent was immeasurably powerful, so he did not hold any power back with this blow. The golden flame blade energy was peerlessly domineering. The air howled around the explosive presence. A different look flashed through the strange corpse's eyes. The raised finger was not lowered, but pointed lightly at the midday blade strike. Boom! The domineering and powerful midday blade strike exploded as it was released, right in front of Zuemo. Zuemo's vision became white. He was unable to see anything. He was extremely shocked. The other was so terrifyingly powerful. At this time, a feeling of danger rose. Without thinking, the light void wings on his back moved, and his body suddenly disappeared from his spot. On the spot he had just been standing at, a gray light flashed by. Zuemo's heart suddenly contracted. When the light disappeared, everything in his vision became clear again. The strange corpse was still standing at his original spot, as though he had never moved. Even the raised finger had returned to its original place. It was like a statue, one that had no life. There was nothing between him and Zuemo. The black butterfly had disappeared. The strange corpse looked unaffectedly at Zuemo. There was no emotion in its empty and gray eyes. It still did not show any signs of life. Even in such a fierce battle, it did not show any vitality. Coldness sprouted from Zuemo's heart. What monster was this guy? Pooh, do you recognize it? Zuemo stared at the other as he remained motionless and asked Pu Yao. No. Pu Yao shook his head. He gave a rare warning. Be careful. I cannot see its power. Zuemo's heart suddenly sank. A level of power that even Pu Yao could not measure. Then, Wei suddenly spoke. Try to talk to him, he may have cognition. Have cognition? Zuemo's mind shifted and he said, Sir, who are you? The statue-like strange corpse's neck cracked as it moved. The gray pupils stared at Zuemo, and its throat sent out dry sounds. Hiss hiss. The strange hisses caused Zuemo's hairs to stand up. Hiss hiss, person? The strange corpse's voice was very indistinct as though it had been a long time since it had spoken. But Zuemo heard that person. As Wei had suspected, it had cognition. For them, this was both good and bad. If the strange corpse was intelligent, then that meant there was the possibility of communicating with them. That was good. But this also meant that if the communication failed, then they were faced with an even more dangerous enemy. Intelligent enemies were undoubtedly harder to fight. Do you understand my words? Zuemo probed. Hiss hiss, croak croak. Blurry sounds like those from a wild beast's throat came. The strange corpse's expression finally changed slightly. He seemed to be trying to remember something. But the change in expression on his already ugly face made it even more terrible. Zuemo jumped in fright. If they enraged the strange corpse, then it really wasn't a joke. Power that even Pu Yao could not measure, they definitely were not a match. Hiss hiss, human, you are human. The strange corpse's eyes held strong emotion but his voice was still cracking. But Zuemo understood. He hurriedly nodded as his hands moved. Right. I'm human, I'm human. The subordinates behind Zuemo were stunned by the scene in front of them. Their mouths were gaping as their faces were still. Some of the braver ones couldn't help but laugh lightly. This kind of communication was really weird, especially Darren's reply. It was too funny to hear. Listening to the light laughter behind him, Zuemo instantly knew what those people were thinking. But in order not to provoke the strange corpse, he filled his face with a friendly and harmless smile. He thought inside, just wait for me to sort you fools out later. The strange corpse's twisted expression calmed, and his words became smoother. How did you get in? Zuemo's hairs rose at being the focus of the strange corpse's gray eyes. He said, our transportation formation was altered by someone, so we were transported here. Transportation formation? The strange corpse perceptively caught the crux of the information. Yes, transportation formation. Zuemo nodded. What is this transportation formation? The strange corpse asked. This is complicated to explain. Zuemo motioned. No matter. What is least lacking here is time. The strange corpse smiled at him, but Zuemo's bones shivered at that smile. When he finished speaking, the strange corpse suddenly flicked out a bolt of light. After a while, the 5 other monsters appeared next to him. Of the 5, only the sand puppet looked slightly disheveled. It had a black spear thrust into its body. But compared to its enormous shape, the black spear was like a toothpick. The sand where the black spear was abruptly caved inward, and then swallowed the black spear. Zhuemo inhaled sharply. At the same time, several figures appeared like lightning beside Zhuemo. Each person did not have a good expression. The others' powers were too fantastical. The strange corpse looked at the black sword in Wei Sheng's hands and nodded his head. Didn't think that this sword would end up in your possession. Wei Sheng's eyebrow raised. Zhuemo reacted the quickest and hurriedly asked, "Elder, what is the origin of this sword?" "Ha ha, he will know when the time comes." The strange corpse's speech became increasingly smooth and his expressions more varied. But this caused him to look even weirder. The strange corpse turned his face to ask Zhuemo, "Speak about the transformation formation." The transformation formation is a formation method to move from one place to another. Formation method? Didn't even know what a formation method was? Were these guys really survivors of the Battle of Sealed Extinction? His heart couldn't help but beat wildly. The strange corpse seemed to know what Zhuemo was thinking inside. The gray pupils were amused. Zhuemo focused and carved out a transportation formation on the ground. "This is a transportation formation. We use it to travel." The strange corpse swept a look and understood. This method is clever, but there are many limitations. We don't know the general location of this place. One minor difference in the transportation formation, and it creates thousands of li of error. Thinking about it, Zhuemo could only shake his head. But the strange corpse looked at Zhuemo. "I know you have another way of leaving." Not waiting for Zhuemo to argue, he said faintly, "I have followed you for many days. You want to reach the center of the battlefield." The expressions of those beside Zhuemo were ugly. Someone had followed behind them for so many days, yet none of them had detected it. Zhuemo wasn't too shocked. The other's strength was much greater than theirs. He had a guess. This strange corpse might possibly be an old monster that survived the Battle of Sealed Extinction. In comparison, the strongest of his group was just Jindan. The other could destroy them with a flick of the finger. "With your strength, you cannot go into the center of the battlefield," the strange corpse said faintly. "Those that died here are the strongest of the world. Their lingering presences are not something you can resist against even after so many years." Having it baldly stated that their power wasn't enough left everyone with black faces. But the others' immeasurable power made them not dare to rebuke the statement. Zhuemo reacted the quickest, or rather, of everyone. He had the best understanding of the strange corpse and his group's power. Since he understood their present situation the best, his mentality was the most appropriate. "Please, Elder, teach us," Zhuemo said with a bow. The strange corpse showed a satisfied expression, even though the half-multicolored face caused him to look horrifying. He did not drag it out. "I can take you in, but I will leave with you." Zhuemo released a breath and said, "It is our honor." No one had an opinion for the addition of the strange corpse's group. Reality quickly proved that this decision was correct. The addition of the strange corpse caused all the other monsters along the road to disappear. Their speed increased greatly. The strange corpse was not silent, but talkative. He was very interested in talking with Zhuemo. Zhuemo might not have proven his speculations on the identity of the strange corpse, but he received a great deal of information. For example, out of the group of 6, only the strange corpse had intelligence. The other 5 were vicious beings that were born in this patch of fiendish ground. Whenever he conversed with the strange corpse, Pu Yao and Wei would remain silent. They were very wary of the strange corpse. Just how perceptive of expression was Zhuemo? Seeing the strange corpse held no ill will towards them, he took out the totem fragments they had obtained and asked for guidance from the strange corpse. "Huh? You guys want even this?" The strange corpse laughed, his tone disinterested. "These are too fragmented, there is nothing very useful." "Elder recognizes this?" Zhuemo hurriedly asked. "Very normal stuff. Every tribe will have them, used for sacrificial offerings." "How to use them?" "The totem itself has Shun power. Shin power. Belief creates Shin power. Shin power nurtures the totem, so the totem can form. Zuermo did not understand. As expected, the stuff of ancient times and the present were two different things. He could only change his question. Elder, how can this thread of intelligence in the fragment be forged? What is the use of this bit of intelligence? The strange corpse did not think much of the fragment. Zuermo didn't know what to say. If this fragment was on the outside world, there would be countless people that would want this. Filled men do not know the hunger of hungry men. Zuermo muttered. Now that they were familiar, Zuermo had generally gotten a grasp on the strange corpse's temper. He knew the other would not get angry over this. The strange corpse glanced at him. Don't worry. There are many things better than this along the way. I will help you get some. Zuermo was overjoyed. Many thanks, Elder. Don't thank me. Without you, I cannot leave. The strange corpse taught. Your methods are too gentle. If you want to forge the intelligence of this fragment, you have to use force. Force. Zuermo was dumbstruck. It was the first time he heard of doing that. Submit or die, the strange corpse said faintly. Seeing the shock on Zuermo's face, the strange corpse said, totems are born to protect the tribe. Their intelligence is not high, about the same as wild beasts. As long as they know they will die if they do not submit, they will naturally be tamed. Before Zuermo could react, the strange corpse raised his head and looked into the distance. Careful. We are going to enter the core area now. Zuermo felt as though he walked out of the fiendish mist. Everything was open in front of him. Chapter 417, Sea of Golden Crystal Sand. The dunes in their sight were endless. The glittering gold sand was like a golden sea, and these rising dunes were like the waves of this golden sea. This scene was spectacular. The Golden Crow camp at the back of their procession suddenly became restless. It's golden crystal sand. Heavens, all of this is golden crystal sand. Oh, heavens. It really is golden crystal sand. Heavens! What place is this? How can there be this much golden crystal sand? The restlessness from the rear rippled forward, and Zuermo couldn't help but be stunned. He bent down and grabbed a handful of sand. When the gold sand entered his hand, his first thought was, heavy. When he examined it, the golden sand was actually half transparent. Each speck was a cube. At the center of the cube was a hair-thin golden thread. The reason that the sand was such a strong golden color was due to this extremely thin golden hair. It really was golden crystal sand. 5th grade golden crystal sand. Zuermo dazedly looked at the golden sea in front of him, his mind blank as he allowed the golden crystal sand to slip through his fingers. This is the area where the totem of the Sun tribe fell, so it is the land of the sunset. The Sun tribe had the sun as its totem, and had many powerful tribal warriors. It was one of the strongest tribes in all of the Jie. The strange corpse's voice was calm and emotionless, without any rise, as though he was describing a normal matter. Zuermo recovered from his daze. He furiously scooped golden crystal sand into his ring. Heavens, this was golden crystal sand. 5th grade golden crystal sand. On the outside, it was sold by the grain. If he let this opportunity go, he would be struck by lightning. Zuermo had never felt he was so rich before. It wasn't just him. All the Xiozha of the Golden Crow camp were furiously packing in the golden crystal sand. Everyone's eyes were red. Seeing this made their hearts beat faster and their blood flow more rapidly. In front of such a patch of golden crystal sand sea, everyone was crazy. The strange corpse tilted his head. This and is useful to you? This is golden crystal sand. Zuermo didn't raise his head as he furiously packed golden crystal sand into his ring and said rapidly, a 5th grade material. I can't even find a place to buy this on the outside. Do you know, this is worth a lot. Right? We've struck it rich this time. There is so much here, how are you going to take it all? The strange corpse pointed at the endless sea of sand. Zuermo's movements paused. The endless sea of sand in front of him seemed to be reminding him that the golden crystal sand he was packing away was just a drop in the ocean. The bursting joy turned to grief. Zhuemo's tears flowed down his face. The golden crystal sand sea was in front of him, but he could not take all of it. The greatest pain in life was this. Looking at the vast sea of sand, Zhuemo was still for a while. After a long while, he refocused and gritted out a few words. Set up camp. The troop quickly set up camp. Everyone was in a sort of frenzy and their movements unusually brisk. Forge all of this. Flying swords, ling armors, forge it all with golden crystal sand. Zhuemo's bellows rang out over the entire camp. Everyone was upbeat. All of Golden Crow camp members had eyes filled with blood. As production Xiozha, they had no resistance towards high-level materials. Vermilion Bird Camp was also excited. They learned from the Golden Crow camp members that golden crystal sand was great material for forging flying swords. The flying swords forged from it were unable to be damaged, so sharp they could cut through everything. Even more importantly, it was at least 5th grade. A 5th grade flying sword, that was enough for a sword Xiao to risk it all. This land of sunset was filled with the presence of the sun. The power of the Golden Crow fire had greatly increased. The Xiozha of Golden Crow camp started on their difficulty task of forging with golden crystal sand. Yes, it was very difficult. They were mostly from grassroots. They had pitifully few encounters with 4th grade materials, let alone 5th grade materials. Golden Crow fire was also a 4th grade flame. Even though its power had greatly increased, but it was not easy to forge golden crystal sand. The great majority of people could only forge 1 grain at a time. The strange corpse looked with interest at this group of people. Calming down, Zhuemo suddenly realized this was a rare and wonderful opportunity. So much golden crystal sand. Other than the value of the golden crystal sand itself, it could also provide everyone with a great chance to practice. Using golden crystal sand to practice, for a forging Xiozha, was there anything more extravagant and sumptuous than this? Zhuemo's mood suddenly became light. Using 5th grade materials to practice. The experience he would get was much greater than with normal materials. Even Zhuemo started to pick up the forging crafts he had decided to throw away a long time ago, and started to process golden crystal sand. The strange corpse did not hurry them. He looked curiously as Zhuemo forged. All of this was very unfamiliar to him. Your flame is better than theirs. The strange corpse might not understand forging, but he still had his eyes. Yes, I'm their head. Zhuemo was slightly smug, but his hands didn't stop for an instant. Head. The strange corpse repeated and chewed this word. He raised his head and asked, "Does it mean leader?" Elder's comprehension is really good. Zhuemo flattered. He then asked curiously, "Elder, how did you forge talismans in your time?" "Talismans? What are talismans?" The strange corpse asked in puzzlement. "Oh, the flying swords they use are one type of talisman. Really, it is stuff that is made using all kinds of materials in order to increase our strength," Zhuemo explained. The strange corpse was slightly dazed. "Your sword, oh flying sword, it is a clever trick. But the quality is lacking, and the power it adds is too little. It is also too fine. There are many places that it does not need to be so fine. As long as the materials have enough cognition, they will merge together and have greater power." Zhuemo choked. He could only ask in response, "Elder, did you have many materials with cognition during your time?" "Everywhere." The strange corpse had a matter-of-fact expression. He pointed at the ground. "Stuff like this, no one would want this." Zhuemo almost spat blood. So the golden crystal sand that was a treasure in their eyes was stuff that no one else wanted. However, Zhuemo understood upon thinking about it. The number of cultivators in ancient times could not compare to now. After so many years of development and production, after generations of harvesting and division, there naturally won't be much left of even the greatest amount of materials. Thinking about it that way, Zhuemo found it fair. Times are different. If this was taken out now, it would be considered good. Materials that have cognition are rare and too precious. The strange corpse was a very intelligent person. He nodded in understanding and said, "No wonder you have developed such clever methods." His next words caused Zhuemo's flame to shake. The golden crystal sand in the middle of the flame that was going to melt instantly turned back to normal. There is something better inside this patch of sand. What good thing? Zhuemo asked urgently. Something better than golden crystal sand, wouldn't that at least be 6th grade? 6th grade material? In this moment, Zhuemo actually felt a thread of terror. 5th grade materials might be rare, but he still had obtained a few items. But 6th grade materials? He hadn't ever dared to even think about it. Even the tiniest bit of 6th grade material was enough to bring calamities. However, this thread of terror quickly disappeared. Since ancient times, the daring died from overeating, while the cowardly died from hunger. He also had so many fellows, and the future wasn't something a person could entirely shape to their will. Zhuemo's gaze quickly became heated. The strange corpse tilted his head and swept a gaze across the sand. His gaze locked on a certain dune and then it pointed over. Bang! An enormous sound, and a faraway sand dune suddenly exploded. Zhuemo gaped with wide eyes. This sand dune was at least 100 zhang high. It looked like a small mountain. But the strange corpse just pointed and the resulting explosion turned it all to dust. A sand dune made up from golden crystal sand was at least millions of caddies heavy, and under this gesture, had it became dust. Zhuemo felt a hint of fear. It was lucky that he hadn't tried to battle to death against this freak. The strange corpse calmly made a grabbing motion with his hand. A golden shadow penetrated the sand swirling in the sky and flew into his hand. An orange ball of fire. The burning heat rushed at him. Zhuemo couldn't help but take a few steps back. Enduring wave after wave of heat, he felt that his eyebrows were burning. He looked in shock at the fireball in the strange corpse's hand. Such high temperature. Such a powerful flame. The orange-red flame burned like a miniature sun. This flame's temperature was so high it surpassed any flame that Zhuemo knew of. Within the orange-red fireball, it was possible to discern a faint sphere. This is called a sun crystal seed. In the past it was the seed of the Sun tribe's totem. However, the Sun tribe has probably died out by now, and it can no longer be used for the Sun totem. The strange corpse looked at Zhuemo. Do you want it? Treasure. Definitely an ultimate treasure. Not ordinary. Zhuemo was an experienced hand at studying reassures. He could see with a glance that the fireball's value definitely surpassed everything on his body added together. Staring at the fireball, he felt a hint of trepidation, but he gritted his teeth and said without hesitating. Want? What? He'll want it even if he died. Its temperature is too high, you cannot tolerate it. I will help you seal it. When your strength reaches a certain level, you can unlock the seal. When the strange corpse finished speaking, without seeing him move, the orange-red flames quickly became dim and revealed the true face of the sphere inside. It was a sphere that looked just the same as normal crystal spheres that did not have any light. Zhuemo took over the crystal ball. His hand suddenly sank down, and his pupils dilated. It was so heavy. With the great Demo physique, Zhuemo was so strong that no one was a match for him in the camp. But he was almost unable to hold this little crystal ball. Zhuemo guessed that this crystal ball was tens of thousands of caddies heavy. He struggled to put the crystal ball into his ring. He released a breath. The strange corpse had solved a great problem for him. After being sealed, the crystal ball was unattractive and unassuming. As long as no one reached to take it, no one would think that this nondescript crystal ball was at least a top 6th grade material. After the strange corpse threw the crystal ball to Zhuemo, he did not show any more intentions of acting. He did not hurry them and started to examine people who were forging. All of the members of the Golden Crow camp were furiously processing. This chance to practice with 5th grade materials would likely never appear in front of them again. Suddenly, the strange corpse appeared next to Zhuemo and said, "A sandstorm is coming." Sandstorm. Zhuemo first paused and then his expression changed dramatically. Golden crystal sand was a good material, yes. But if it was sandstorm that was formed from golden crystal sand, the power from it. Chapter 418, sandstorm, a black line could be seen on the horizon and it was rushing towards them at astonishing speed. In a short period of time, the black line had multiplied in size. The golden crystal sand was picked up by the wind and the resulting sandstorm blocked the sun. The sky instantly darkened. The storm front looked like an ancient beast that was howling. Zuemo paled. He howled at the top of his lungs, "Into the boat! Into the boat!" Without needing Zuemo's management, everyone started to systematically move. The Xiozha of Golden Crow Camp threw away the golden crystal sand in their hands without a second word and moved like a legion of ants towards the slave-transporting boat. The Golden Crow lit up with faint light, and the other boats also started to light up. This meant that the defensive formations on the boats had been activated. Every slave-transporting boat had been redesigned and renovated. They had engraved the boats with all kinds of defensive formations. But to save Ling power, these formations were usually not activated. Everyone was trained and quickly entered the slave-transporting boats. There were only Zuemo, Wei Xing, and the few that were the strongest left outside. Zuemo called to the strange corpse to go into the boat together. The strange corpse shook his head. "This bit of a sandstorm isn't anything." Thinking about the strange corpse's enormous power, Zuemo did not force him. He was preparing to call the others into the boat when the strange corpse suddenly said, "I suggest that you all do not go in." "Why?" Zuemo asked curiously. "You are all more powerful than the rest," the strange corpse said, "but your cultivations do not seem to be stable. You must have broken through not long ago. This kind of sandstorm is a chance for you, a chance to strengthen yourselves." The people were thoughtful. The strange corpse said faintly, "Do not give up any opportunity to strengthen yourself. This is very beneficial for you." Wei Xing, Xie Shan, and the others were very moved. These normal words embodied with the obsession to cultivate. The cultivation maniac Wei Xing spoke first. "Yes. I will not go inside." Xie Shan tightly followed. "I won't go inside either." Xu Long did not say anything, but the determination in his eyes displayed his decision. Zhong Ru's hands were together as he stood with closed eyes, but the decisiveness showed on his face. Zuemo stared with wide eyes at this group and wanted to swear. "You idiots, you're so stupid. One sentence from that person and you were all fooled." But he only dared to swear inside. The strange corpse's gaze did not land on him, but he still felt a blade pointed at his back. Looking at Wei Xing and the others remaining still, Zuemo gritted through his teeth as though he was possessed by a ghost and said, "All right, then everyone can go together." When he finished speaking, he regretted it. Wasn't he just asking for abuse? Why did he go and accompany them in their craziness? It really was crazy. All of them were crazy. The other people looked at each other and then laughed out loud. Zuemo forced himself to squeeze a smile onto his face, but it was uglier than crying. The sandstorm arrived very quickly, faster than they had imagined. A moment ago it was on the horizon then, and in a flash, it was in front of him. The sound was shocking. Zuemo's face was white and unconfident inside. Pia pia pia. The first wave of the sandstorm hit the shining light covers of the slave-transporting boats and caused sparks to fly everywhere. The golden crystal sand was extremely dense, and each seemingly tiny grain was very heavy. The wind was very fast, and each grain of golden crystal sand it carried was astoundingly powerful. Zuemo and the others quickly experienced the power of the sandstorm. The power of the wind was tolerable. All of them were exceptionally skilled, and could stabilize themselves in the wild wind. But the ever-present golden crystal sand was truly hard to deal with. Even Zuemo, who had the protection of the Great Day Mo physique, felt pain from the barrage of sand. The pain the others felt could be imagined. Everyone was furiously channeling Ling power to protect their body. Xu Long, who was covered in armor, was drowning in sparks. Only the strange corpse had a calm face. The space within 1 zhang of him was undisturbed. The area was filled with warm winds and radiating light. Zuemo was quickly overwhelmed and could no longer look around. The sandstorm had increased in power. It became even difficult for him to stabilize his body. He had to hunch over to try to reduce the resistance against the terrifying sandstorm. The golden crystal sand rained down on his body. Under the flame seal armor, it was unusually painful. This wind wasn't right. The wind that had just started was producing a different sound than just a moment ago. There was a feeling of tearing in the howling as though there were hundreds of sharp knives rubbing together. Hard wind. This was hard wind. Hard wind was like a blade. Its most famous quality was being able to tear apart the Ling power that protected one's body. But in reality, the hard wind didn't just tear through Ling power, it could also tear apart Mo physiques. Zuoremo could not open his eyes. His ears were filled with wails and cries. He bit down hard and did not dare to relax. The hard wind was growing stronger. The howl of the hard wind seemed to have an unusual power and could stun one's soul. Zuoremo did not have the spare energy to think about analyzing the experience. In this degree of hard wind, if he slacked off in the slightest, he would instantly be torn apart and turned to powder. The hard wind that carried golden crystal sand was like an enormous grinder that could reduce everything into a powder. The strange corpse glanced at the slave-transporting boats that were wavering against the hard wind. He suddenly reached out to point at the trembling slave-transporting boats. The Ling shields on each slave-transporting boat suddenly became brighter and the boats instantly stabilized. The states of Zuoremo and the others were not good. Xie Shan had long ago summoned his flying sword. Circles of multicolored light spun around his body like rainbows. An enormous shadow appeared behind Zhong Ru. He summoned the attainment golden body. Shu Long had also summoned his black Ji, and his body seemed to be nailed to the ground. After a while, Wei Sheng, who had been motionless all this time, finally raised the black sword in his hand. A vigorous sword essence erupted and tightly wrapped around Wei Sheng. Zuomo's Great Day Mo physique was being channeled to the maximum. Flames rampaged across the flame seal armor and heartily burning in the hard wind. The sandstorm covered the sky. In the middle of the storm, Zuoremo and the others were unable to see anything in the darkness. Zuoremo only felt that every muscle was burning. When every grain of the golden crystal sand hit his body with the hard wind, he felt a heart-boring pain. In the dark sandstorm, sparks flew like rain and tightly surrounded Zuoremo. They came from all directions and pushed Zuoremo to the point he was unable to move. The impenetrable flame seal armor started to warp from the furious blows of the sandstorm. Blows that made him unable to breathe. It was the first time Zuoremo had encountered such a suffocating attack. Other than bearing through it, he could not think of any other solution. Even when he had been facing Clear Sky Old Forefather, he had not been as disheveled as now. Today, he learned just how immeasurable the power of the world was. Zuomo's body rattled like dice, and his energy quickly flowed. Every breath was so long. This sandstorm seemed endless and made one feel hopeless. Sparks continuously flew. The flame seal armor continuously changed shape. Pia pia pia. Several golden crystal sand grains penetrated the flame seal armor and hit Zuomo's body. Zuomo's figure swayed and he almost fell. No, he almost couldn't persist anymore. Zuoremo gritted his teeth and bore it out, stabilizing his figure. He knew if he lost control of his body, then there was no possibility of survival. The ever-present golden crystal sand and the hard wind that could enter any opening would take his life. Pew pew pew. Several bursts of blood suddenly sprayed and was ground into a bloody mist by the sandstorm as it left his body. The powerful Great Day Mo physique seemed to become fragile in front of this sandstorm. Ever since he had begun cultivating the Great Day Mo physique, especially as he had become familiarized with the 6 transformations, Zuoremo had never been wounded. But today, he was forcibly beaten down and covered in wounds. With a string of screeching cracks, the flame seal armor suddenly crumbled. The hard wind carried the golden crystal sand from all directions as it burrowed into Zuomo's body. Pew! Dozens of tiny blood arrows shot out. Zuomo's pupils suddenly unfocused and his body froze. Even more golden crystal sand leapt at him as though they were sharks that smelt blood. A bellow like that of a wounded wild beast. Zuomo's eyes were completely red, his hair standing on end. A tendril of blood came from his mouth. The successive wounds had enraged him. He was wounded, Wounded. Deep inside his body, something seemed to break. A warm wave erupted. Zuomo's entire body became boiling. The blood in his vessels was like lava. Every nerve was shaking. Every muscle was shaking. His entire body was shaking. His body was completely red like burning metal. In the sea of consciousness, Wei's expression changed greatly. Is his great day mo physique going through its second breakthrough? Pu Yao found it strange. Breakthrough is good. Wei's expression was serious as he shook his head and said, he is reaching the destination too fast too. His great day mo physique has just gone through the first breakthrough, or the first maturation that you know of it as. But if he successively has 2 breakthroughs in such a short period of time, then there is a possibility that he will not be able to reach the 3rd breakthrough before he levels up. That is also good. Pu Yao was slightly confused. He might understand how to cultivate as mo, but on the details, he was far lacking compared to Wei. It is not good. Wei shook his head. His mo physique cultivation talent is astounding. I hadn't thought that he would reach his 2nd breakthrough this quickly. But with the growth of a mo physique faster is not better. It is like the growth of a person. Too rapid of growth will leave behind hidden weaknesses. What he needs right now is to make a good foundation. He has just had a breakthrough. His body has not reached the limits of maturation in this stage. A breakthrough with a body that is not mature would lower the limits of what his body can tolerate. Pu Yao instantly understood what Wei meant. His expression also became grave. He was of outstanding knowledge, and once seen many geniuses that had pursued speed in cultivation and had not set a good foundation when they were young. Their ability to maintain their cultivating speed had been lacking. The two sank into silence and stared nervously at Zuomo. Zuomo did not know that he was at a very crucial time. He only felt that his entire body was immersed in lava. His entire body was filled with endless power as though nothing could stop him. Brutality, craziness, and the most primitive impulses controlled his mind. He wanted to bellow, he wanted to shout, he wanted to destroy everything. There seemed to be an invisible wall around his body. The hard wind and golden crystal sand that had seemed invincible before were forcibly stopped on the outside. The strange corpse's eyes saw through the sand and stared at Zuomo. His gaze landed on Zuomo's chest. A cool, slender flow silently flowed past Zuomo's heart. At the same time on the slave-transporting boat, Ague seemed to detect something and stood up, her eyes lighting up with a serene purple energy. Chapter 419, Forced to the Precipice. Zuomo's mind suddenly cleared. It was the 5-element glass bead inside his body. Faint water element power flowed along his channels and nurtured his dry and bright red channels. But pitted against the great day-banded flame, this portion of water element power was like a cup of water, and consumed by the strong flame instantly. But this weak water element power had allowed Zuomo, who had entered an unusual state, a very brief moment of clarity. It was this brief clarity that pulled Zuomo from the edge of the cliff. He instantly detected danger, great danger. He did not know where the danger was. In fact, the expanding power inside his body was intoxicating. Yet at this time, he displayed shocking calmness, because he smelt that the great danger lingered under the great power. But he quickly found he did not know how to get out this unusual state. He wanted to ask for help from Pu Yao, but no matter how he shouted inside, he could not feel the existence of Pu Yao. There seemed to be a power that separated him and Pu Yao. This was going to be fatal. He didn't have time to groan before he was swallowed once again by the bursting flame. At this moment, a faint blue light once again came from the 5-element glass bead in his body. As it slowly spun, faint water element power erupted again. The water element power this time was thicker than previously. The great day-banded flame was rampaging in Zuomo's body. It was created from the great day mo physique, and the 6th grade great day-banded flame was filled with destructiveness. It hadn't been tamed by Zuomo to start with. Stimulated by the outside environment, it started to resist. It was like a furious wild beast, power in angry waves. The Great Day Mo physique that had just finished the first maturation was fragile in front of this terrifying power, as though it would be consumed at any moment. The golden Great Day banded flame permeated every fiber of muscle, every bone. The Great Mo physique of the Great Day Mo physique that had completed the first maturation was unable to withstand the tyrannical Great Day banded flame. Flesh and blood that had not matured perfectly instantly burned to dust. Even the strong flesh and blood that had completed the maturation perfectly were slowly melting under the heat of the Great Day banded flame. The process seemed akin to tempering. If it could be completed, Zhuomo's body would reach terrifying new heights in power. The water element power that had just been released by the 5-element glass bead was instantly surrounded by the Great Day banded flame, and a strong collision occurred. Hiss. The light blue stream and the golden flame crossed, but the water element power quickly was defeated. The ferocious Great Day banded flame was like a savage beast that easily burnt the water element power until there wasn't a drop left. It seemed to be still unsatisfied and immediately leap at the 5-element glass bead. This conflict that appeared to have no meaning once again allowed Zhuomo to receive a brief moment of clarity. As though he had been scooped out of lava, Zhuomo's vision was still completely red. If it was said that last time he had just smelt the scent of danger, then this time, he truly realized just how dangerous his situation was. He panted heavily as every nerve burned in pain. Savagery and insanity furiously attack his nervous. He suppressed the demonic impulse to destroy everything. But he could not keep going like this. Zhuomo wrung his brains and tried to think. Zhuomo was locked inside a cauldron. He didn't know what was going on with Pu Yao, did not what was happening to the others. He didn't have the time or the energy to spare thinking about others. Forced to the precipice, there was only one thought in his mind. Stop the Great Day banded flame. Uncontrolled tempering that would not submit to control. The 5-element glass bead was obviously the loser of the battle with the Great Day banded flame. The grade difference between the two was too great. The Great Day banded flame had completely surrounded the 5-element glass bead and was furiously pressing in. The 5-element glass bead was starting to spin slower and slower. What to do? The Great Day banded flame did not listen to Zhuomo's orders at all. It was like a bloodthirsty monster that rampaged in his body. All the techniques used in cultivating the Great Day Mo physique were useless. The Great Day banded flame that had been coincidentally formed far surpassed the limits of what his Great Day Mo physique could control. This great leap of progress finally caused Zhuomo trouble for the first time. Damn it! What to do? Almost forced into insanity, Zhuomo used all the powers that he could use. Ling power, spiritual power. These were not strong powers, but he channeled them as though he was completely crazy. It was the first time that he used Ling power, spiritual power, and the Mo physique simultaneously without holding anything back. Just to resist the 6th grade Great Day banded flame. They were completely different, but these unconnected powers were fighting together. They started a fierce conflict around the 5-element glass bead. Zhuomo's Ling power was sent into the 5-element glass bead, and the sealed 5-element glass bead detected danger. It greedily absorbed Zhuomo's Ling power. The 5-element glass bead that almost stopped spinning started to gradually spin faster. The dim light lit up again, and the water element power released was multiple times greater than what it had been before. And Zhuomo's consciousness was furiously releasing water Yao arts. Inside Zhuomo's body, the manipulation of his consciousness was even easier. The rate that these water Yao arts were released was so fast it was frightening. Facing the 5-element glass bead's water element power and the water Yao arts, the Great Day banded flame was still dominating. The enormous difference in grade was not something that could be filled just by numbers. If the water element power tried to push forward, it would be forced back by the Great Day banded flame. When those astounding numbers of water Yao arts flew into the Great Day banded flame, it was like they were being thrown into a bottomless pit. There was no response. Zhuomo controlled the Mo physique and tried to vent the power of the Great Day banded flame to the outside. It was also ineffective. The Great Day banded flame inside his body was like a beast that lost control. All the methods to control it in the past had completely lost effectiveness now. The situation was still slowly and persistently developing in a dangerous direction. The only thing worth celebrating was that while the great day-banded flame raged, it also blocked the hard wind and the golden crystal sand. Zuomo's terrible situation caused Pu Yao and Wei to wear grave expressions and show the utmost concern. The power of the great day-banded flame had completely cut off their connection to Zuomo. They could only stare and were unable to do anything. Due to the fact the great day-banded flame was born from the great day Mo physique and was strongly yang, it was extremely fatal to existences like Pu Yao and Wei. Pu Yao and Wei's power had been too greatly expended. Even if they had received reinforcement from the Golden Souls and recovered slightly, but facing a natural enemy like the great day-banded flame, they still couldn't do a thing. That guy still isn't acting? Pu Yao's bloody pupil flashed with a cold light. He's really composed, Wei said emotionally. His expression was also terrible. This event originally had been a chance for him. If Zuomo was willing to take up his succession, he could have easily resolved the complications. But he had not expected that the great day-banded flame was so domineering that it had forcibly blocked the connection between Zuomo and themselves. Right now, they couldn't even help, much less pass anything on. Their only hope was the strange corpse. On the way here, the strange corpse had not showed any enmity towards Zuomo, and was instead very friendly. With the strange corpse's power, it would only take a flick of the finger to solve Zuomo's trouble. Yet, even though the situation was now so dangerous, the strange corpse still showed no signs of moving. For Pu Yao and Wei, Zuomo's situation was directly connected to their future. If the great day-banded flame's power was completely released inside Zuomo's body, Zuomo would be directly burned to dust, and they could not avoid the same fate. The duo's gazes as they stared at the strange corpse were very unfriendly. Zuomo understood his dangerous situation. He forcibly fought off the influence of the great day-banded flame even though the power was so seductive. Who was strong and weak could be seen with a glance. Zuomo understood that if he could not immediately figure out an effective method, his outcome would definitely be very terrible. If he had the time to think, he would have definitely regretted cultivating the great day Mo physique. But he didn't have the time to think. All of his attention was focused on the battle inside his body. After the brief pause was a one-way advance. It caused him to have a deep understanding of the deep abyss between grades. He realized that normal methods were basically useless. The strong feeling of burning and exhilaration attacked his mind like the tide. But at this time, Zuomo completely calmed down. He had put in all the power that he could use from his body, but he still was not a match for the great day-banded flame. Zuomo's mind moved quickly. How could he get his power to become stronger? A bolt of lightning suddenly flashed through Zuomo's mind. A daring yet matter-of-fact idea floated up in his mind. His three types of powers were fighting for themselves, and were not a match for the great day-banded flame. What about merging them together? Would it become more powerful? It was like the gate had opened. Inspiration bursted out. Zuomo thought about how he had tried to use Fire Yao arts to forge because he could not use the great day-banded flame. Even though he had not succeeded, but he had found a discernible path that could connected Fire Yao arts, consciousness, Ling power, and fire control. This idea was just a vague and general one. He had prepared to settle down before studying it. But at this time, while he was slowly drowning against the waves of power, Zuomo seemed to find a life-saving piece of driftwood. Without care to anything else he grabbed on, and he started to experiment. He did not have the time to hesitate. He withdrew Heis Ling power from the 5-element glass bead. At this time, there was only half of his Ling power remaining. His consciousness quickly wrapped around the Ling power. Zuomo could feel every detail of the Ling power. The connection between Ling power and consciousness was very tricky. The Ling power inside a Xiujia's body was what the Xiujia obtained after absorbing it from the outside and then processing it into even purer Ling power. Yao arts, that was the consciousness controlling all kinds of primary energies of the outside world. Yao arts were like using a lever to move all kinds of Ling power in the natural world. When Zuomo's consciousness wrapped onto the Ling power, a wondrous feeling occurred. Among the Xiuzhe, Zuomo's consciousness was pretty big, and among the Yao, Zuomo's Ling power was also very powerful. When the two entwined together, a strange change occurred. The consciousness was able to control the Ling power roaming in the outside world, and his Ling power was even purer and abundant than the Ling power on the outside. But the strange feeling stimulated Zuomo, but he couldn't help but furrow his brow. He seemed to feel that something was lacking. Mo physique. That was right, Mo physique. He understood that he finally found the key to the crucial problem. He forcibly suppressed the joy and excitement inside. An idea he never had before rapidly took shape in his mind. Chapter 420. Very normal. Once this crazy idea was formed, it securely took over Zuomo's entire mind. All stray thoughts were thrown to the side. Truthfully, at such a dangerous moment, finding a plausible idea was enough for him to gamble everything. There was just no other choice. The 5-element glass bead was in great danger and could be swallowed by the Great Day Banded Flame at any moment. The 5-element glass bead was his last defense. If it was swallowed by the Great Day Banded Flame, the crazy Great Day Banded Flame would instantly consume him. Zuomo's eyes suddenly turned entirely red. He gathered all the remaining power he had in his body and used all of the 6 transformations of the Great Day Mo physique at the same time. The Great Day Banded Flame was freed from its restraints and exploded to cover his entire body. The golden flame were clearly divided in concentric circles but flickered at the same rhythm. It was enchanting and appeared like golden rainbows. But Zuomo was not in the mood to admire the beauty of the Great Day Banded Flame. His power was quickly being expended. The consciousness and Ling power that were mixed together suddenly separated into many portions and rained upon every corner of his body. Like raindrops, they quickly permeated into Zuomo's flesh and blood. Boom! Zuomo felt as though something inside his body had suddenly exploded. His mind was completely blank. At the same time, the Great Day Banded Flame that shrouded Zuomo strangely stopped moving. The 5-element glass bead also stopped spinning. At this moment, all movement inside Zuomo's body stopped. Time seemed to stop. A light explosion broke this strange calmness. His left foot exploded without warning, yet the blood seemed to be constrained by an invisible force transforming the spray into rice-sized beads of blood. Pa. A string of explosions. Many parts of Zuomo's body continuously exploded. The string of blood beads extended up Zuomo's legs and spread upwards. Channels, joints, organs. Pa. Zuomo's spine popped like popcorn. His body shook fiercely, but the Great Day Banded Flame seemed to be frozen and remained motionless. When the last bead of the 36 blood beads appeared at the center of Zuomo's brows, his body quieted down again. There was no expression of joy or grief on Zuomo's face, just indifference. The ferocious Great Day Banded Flame was quickly absorbed into the body. Once it entered the body, it was divided into 36 flows that spread into the 36 beads of blood. The dark red beads of blood seemed to be dyed with a layer of gold. The 6 changes of the Great Day Mo physique collapsed like an avalanche. The Ling armor and talismans he wore on his body turned to dust. The only thing left on his body was the ring on his hand. Inside the sandstorm, Zuomo was like a person that never cultivated before. There was no energy on his body. The only thing that caused fear was his eyes, that pair of indifferent and cold eyes. The sandstorm was powerful, but it was not able to go near 1 zhang around him. The space of 1 zhang radius around him was deathly silent. The strange corpse stared at Zuomo as though there was something on his face. That pair of gray eyes showed a rare, thoughtful expression. When Zuomo regained consciousness, an unknown amount of time later, he saw was many concerned gazes. "Why are you all looking at me?" Zuomo reflexively said. He suddenly felt that his body was cold. He looked down and he instantly blushed. With rapid speed, he took out a piece of clothing from the ring and covered his body with it. What was the situation? His brain was dazed. What happened? He suddenly recalled his memories. His expression changed. Sandstorm, right? He had just been in the sandstorm. Hadn't he encountered trouble? What was this? Zuomo's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly inspected his body. The inside of his body was empty. It didn't seem any different than usual, but when Zuomo tried to channel Ling power, his expression couldn't help but change. Why was it like this? His Ling power, consciousness, and body had merged into one. His Ling power in the past was like the water that flowed in a stream and was easy to manipulate. But his Ling power seemed to be a layer of oil on his flesh and blood. It was very viscous and flowed extremely slowly. His spiritual power, which had been like a mist before, was now an enormous web that passed through his entire body. Countless branches spread into every piece of flesh. The strangest was his body. The peerlessly tyrannical Great Day banded flame did not float in the Danton like before but permeated into his flesh and blood. This caused his flesh and blood to have a golden sheen. What was this? Zuomo was stunned. Shidi, are you all right? Wei Xing saw Zuomo's shocked expression and hurriedly asked. All of them had benefited from this sandstorm, but Zuomo had seemed slightly off. Everyone had been very worried. Zuomo refocused. Seeing the worry on all the faces, he forced a smile and said, "Nothing, nothing." Hearing Zuomo say he was all right, everyone released a breath. The crowd left. Zuomo suddenly saw the strange corpse out of the corner of his eyes. His mind shifted and he ran toward the strange corpse. His feet seemed to be exerting the same force as usual, but the scene in front of him blurred. He had jumped forward. Before he understood what happened, he seemed to hit something with a bang, and his field of vision turned black. Zuomo was dumbstruck. Fine sand spilled into his mouth. He finally reacted as knew where he was. He was inside a sand dune. Without needing to use his consciousness, he was able to detect everyone in the surrounding. He really was in the sand. He had fallen headfirst into the sand. What was going on? He did not understand. His hand unconsciously moved to push himself out of the sand. Before his hands could even exert force, his body rocketed multiple zhang high into the air. Midair, Zuomo allowed the golden crystal sand to fall from his body with a blank expression. Who could tell him what was going on? Face bewildered, Zuomo dropped like a rock. When he was about 10 zhang from the ground, he still didn't know what had happened, but he knew it was definitely because of a change in his body. He was thinking about it when he reached the ground. When this thought appeared, Zuomo's vision blurred again. When he could see clearly, he was already on the ground. This was freaky. Zuomo shook. Darren has gained greatly this time. Xieshan's face was upraised and admiring. Darren is an outstanding genius. Zhong Ru's hands were together, his expression pious. I was not able to see Darren's figure clearly just now. It is terrifying. I didn't either. Xieshan felt great empathy. He turned and asked Wei Xing. Teacher Wei, did you see him clearly? Wei Xing shook his head. He didn't speak. Thinking back to Zuomo's movements, a thread of shock flashed through his mind. In his field of view right now, there had only been a faint shadow. That wasn't possible. Wei Xing almost let out a sound of surprise. It had to be said that he did not locate others just by relying on his eyes, but instead used his sword essence. In his knowledge, nothing was faster than sword essence. But just now, his sword essence could not keep up with Shidi's speed. What did that mean? He was left in a cold sweat. If sword essence could not keep up with the other's speed, that meant he would be unable to lock onto the other. If the target could not be located, then the attack would be ineffective. What happened to Shidi? What had happened? Zuomo bent his back as he carefully raised his foot, and then carefully put down his foot as though the sand under his feet were fragile treasures. The gazes of everyone in the surroundings became strange. Darren looked like a duck walking with a limp foot. Zuomo did not notice the gazes of other people. All of his attention was on his feet. He was so focused it was like he was embroidering. While alternating between shallow and deep steps, he walked in front of the strange corpse. Zuomo finally released a breath. What happened to me? Zuomo asked baldly. You fooled all of them and pulled you down as well. Now it was like this, you have to give an explanation. The strange corpse tilted his head. What do you mean what happened? Zuemo glared. My body. What is going on with my body? The strange corpse swept him up and down. He said, your body is very normal. Zuemo almost spat blood. Normal? This was called normal? Then what was Ye's body in the past? Abnormal? Looking at the strange corpse, Zuemo couldn't help but sigh inside. He really was an idiot to put his hopes on an antique from tens of thousands of years ago. A few 10,000 years ago, it was enough for his brain to go wrong a few cycles. But Zuemo thought about how he had two other antiques in his body. The antiques of a few thousand years ago should be more normal than one from tens of thousands of years ago. He suddenly remembered that when he was burning up, he was unable to call Pu Yao. Thinking to there, his heart jumped. He hurriedly called for Pu Yao inside his sea of consciousness. When Zuemo saw the terrible expression on Pu Yao's face, he felt it was unspeakably close. But Pu Yao's next words instantly caused him to not be in the mood to be emotional. I know what you want to ask. Pu Yao's expression was grave. The change inside your body is a rare one. It is the first time I've seen it. Consciousness, Ling power, and flesh and blood can exist together, but I've never seen this kind of mixture. Zuemo's heart instantly cooled. Wei's expression was also grave. I'm very sorry. It is the first time I have seen this. Zuemo's face was ashen. However, Wei was an antique a bit older than Pu Yao. He hesitated and then said, I suspect that your present state is somewhat similar to the ancient cultivators. Pu Yao stilled and then had an expression of realization. Yes. Your state, isn't this the state of ancient cultivators? Ancient cultivators didn't have divisions of Ling power, spiritual power, and Mo physique. Even though Wei and Pu Yao were only guessing, Zuemo instinctively thought about what the strange corpse had just said, and his face paled. An old antique a few tens of thousands of years old said he was very normal. That meant, in the eyes of the strange corpse, Zuemo was like him. Chapter 421 In Insane Idea. Zuemo didn't know how to describe his mood at this moment. Really was. It wasn't sad, but there wasn't much joy. Zuemo quickly sorted out his mood. Since it had happened, no amount of thinking could change the reality of his situation. Feeling the powers in his body that had been amalgamated into one ball, he was slightly curious. Were ancient cultivators also like this? Then how did they channel these powers? Thinking, Zuemo decided to find and ask the strange corpse. That would be better than thinking aimlessly like this. Zuemo's initial actions seemed slightly strange, but everyone's worries had slowly lessened. Everyone's attention quickly turned to that terrifying sandstorm. Without exception, their faces would change when they spoke of it. The one issue that was everyone agreed on was that the defensive abilities of the slave transporting boats was not sufficient to weather the sandstorms. It had to be said that they had only just stepped into the central part of the ancient battlefield. How many dangers were waiting up ahead for them? Everyone felt pessimistic about the prospect of carefree travel. Of the slave transporting boats, the one in the best state was the Golden Crow, the boat that the Golden Crow camp was on. As none of members of Golden Crow camp had offensive capabilities, they had instead put all their efforts into reinforcing their slave transporting boat. The other slave transporting boats held combat personnel. They usually invested their time on cultivation, so the defenses of their slave transporting boats were very fragile in comparison. If the strange corpse had not acted to stabilize the situation, the results would be terrible to see. The entire Golden Crow camp started to move. If everyone had been filled with joy before, everyone had serious expressions now. A tense mood spread. No one knew when the next sandstorm would come. The only thing worth celebrating was that there was endless materials here. Golden crystal sand. A supply of 5th-grade golden crystal sand that was endless and could not be used up. I have an idea, Sun Bao suddenly said as he stared at the endless dunes. Ji Wei asked curiously, what idea? Their minds were in sync. Ji Wei knew if Sun Bao spoke now, it would not be baseless. Sun Bao suddenly turned around, his eyes burning. Let's use golden crystal sand to forge a slave-transporting boat. Use golden crystal sand to forge a boat? Ji Wei exclaimed. Heavens! That is insane. Thus, use golden crystal sand to forge a treasure ship. Use golden crystal sand for the entire boat. Sun Bao was like a fanatic. He waved his arms and said loudly, Aji! Look at this place. It is all golden crystal sand. If we leave, we might never encounter a chance like this ever again. Ji Wei looked at the endless dunes. His heart was moved. He was excited as well. Sun Bao was right. If they missed the chance in front of them, they might never encounter one like this again. No matter how much golden crystal sand they took with them this time, they could never be so wasteful as to use golden crystal sand to forge a big boat that could hold everyone. But it is hard for us to even process it, Sun Bao said without hesitating. Then we use the Crimson Fiend Cauldron. Do you remember how we forged the Crimson Fiend Cauldron last time? It's just more work this time. Seeing the two masters were excitedly shouting with red faces, more and more Golden Crow camp members came over. When they understood what the two masters were saying, they were dumbstruck. But after a short silence, the surrounding people exploded. Do it. This is such a good chance. Oh, heavens. I'm excited just thinking about it. A golden crystal sand treasure ship. Insane. We're all insane. But this really is great. Everyone sank into extreme excitement and frenzy. Sun Bao's idea was enough to cause any production Xiuzhe to feel excitement. Do you understand? The strange corpse asked. In front of him, there was a ruler-straight pit that stretched 10 li into the distance. The pit was multiple zhang wide and the inner walls were as smooth as crystal. That was a spectacle of the golden crystal sand being melted. And all of this was caused with just a pointing of the finger by the strange corpse. Everyone was deeply shocked. Zhuo Mo was the only exception. He could not disguise his disappointment. He said dejectedly, I understand the general concept. The strange corpse was very strong offensively, so strong that the other only needed to point to turn Zhuo Mo to dust. But Zhuo Mo's disappointment still uncontrollably showed. The strange corpse was strong, but that was only due to the difference in cultivation stages. A monster that had lived for tens of thousands of years, his accumulation of power was terrifying. But that terrifying pointing attack did not have much to show in terms of technique. This was a very primitive attack method. All of that power was simply compressed and then released. In terms of technique, it could not compare to the modern methods. No matter if it was Xiuzhe or Yaoma, they had developed their own cultivation methods. They all had their specialties and their focus was different, forming systems on their own. There was a huge variety of techniques. Even the Mo physique that was the least technical of the three was multiple times more exquisite than the strange corpse's attacking method. Zhuo Mo grimaced. Thinking about it, this was actually the result that was most rational. Cultivation methods had developed over several tens of thousands of years. After the development of one generation and another, it was logical that the techniques were more powerful than in the past. If it wasn't for the Great War several thousand years ago that had disrupted this trend, the current methods wouldn't be less than the previous generations. It seemed that he had to search for a method on his own. The strange corpse was extraordinarily intelligent. After a moment of thought, he understood what Zhuo Mo had meant. He said with a nod, Your techniques are extremely complex and varied, far surpassing us. He then asked in puzzlement, There is only one reason that required these techniques have become so complex. Ling energy has become rare. Is the Ling energy outside very thin right now? Was the Ling energy of your time very dense? Zhuo Mo asked curiously. In our time, we never had to consider Ling energy. All beings naturally knew how to absorb Ling energy. This is an innate ability, the strange corpse said. As expected. Zhuo Mo knew the answer and was not very shocked. Resources would run out in the eventually. After tens of thousands of years of use, even the most plentiful resource would not have much left. The strange corpse said, I understand. No wonder I feel you are all weak. So Ling energy has become rare. He murmured. Yes, it has been so long. He suddenly raised his head. How many races are there now? Races? Zuomo's face was puzzled. The strange corpse's gray eyes stared at Zuomo. There has to be living beings that don't look the same as you. Zuomo said assuredly, You mean the Yaoma? Yaoma. Yao races are mostly born from the essences of flora, and Mo from wild beasts. We are human. The strange corpse was silent for a moment and then said, So that's how it is. Zuomo did not know what the strange corpse is, so that's how it is meant. He asked curiously, Did you have Yaoma in your time? The ancient era was too distant from the present, and there were pitifully few records about the ancient era. Everyone was very curious. The strange corpse shook his head and said, In our time, there were only beings, there were not many differences in appearances. All beings could change their appearances at will. The human race is one of those beings, but there was nothing different about them, and they were very weak. Weak? Zuomo's eyes widened in disbelief. The human species was weak. How was that possible? The number of Jia humans now inhabited was almost the equal to the Yao and Mo combined. In terms of powerful people, the number of Xiuzhia also far surpassed Yaoma. In Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia, the Xiuzhia had hunted Yao for thousands of years. For thousands of years, Yaoma were prey of humans. No wonder Zuomo thought he had heard it incorrectly that the humans had been weak in ancient eras. The Yaoma you speak of had more outstanding talent back then. The beings of many tribes possessed many powerful abilities when they were born. If they just cultivated slightly, they would be powerful. But us humans did not have similar talent in this area, and were always suppressed. The strange corpse's faint tone seemed to be describing something that was very normal. Zuomo and the others had dazed expressions. The shock that this information gave them far surpassed the strange corpse's finger-pointing attack. Then why is the human species so strong now? Zuomo asked in a stammer. If I have guessed correctly, it is caused by the change in Ling energy. The other beings had powerful abilities, but when Ling power became rare, their talents would also be weakened. The human species who did not rely on innate abilities did not lose as much as other beings. Time will change everything. The strange corpse's gray eyes were empty, but his words were filled with wisdom. Zuomo's expression was dazed, but he knew that what the strange corpse said was probably the closest to the truth. Darren! Darren! Zuomo seemed to wake up. He looked at Sun Bao, who was running over, and made a sound of acknowledgement. N. Sun Bao said tentatively, We've decided to forge a big ship. Oh, forge a big ship? Then do it, Zuomo unconsciously replied. He had not completely woken up. Sun Bao gritted his teeth. We plan on forging a golden crystal sand treasure ship. Golden crystal sand treasure ship, Zuomo made a sound. He suddenly reacted. Wait, what did you say? We are planning to use golden crystal sand to make a large ship. A treasure ship that can hold everyone. Sun Bao raised his head, his eyes flashing with heat. Zuomo opened his mouth and looked dazedly at Sun Bao. Darren, the journey we face is fraught with danger. Our slave transporting boats cannot hold up. There is also an unlimited supply of golden crystal sand here. It is a chance from heaven. Why don't we use it to forge a large ship? Sun Bao wasn't afraid. A moment later, Zuomo refocused, and his eyes lit up with excitement. Exactly. If they could use golden crystal sand to forge a big ship, as Zuomo thought, he felt his blood boil. The golden crystal sand that was sold by the grain on the outside, and he could use it to forge a big ship. It really was an insane idea. Zuomo's eyes became even brighter. He said viciously, Forge? Why don't we forge? We'll forge it as big as we can. With his agreement, all of Golden Crow Camp instantly sank into mania. Chapter 422, Tyrant. This guy really knows how to sleep. He still hasn't woken up. Nian Lu muttered, but a hint of worry flashed past his eyes. Lei Peng did not speak. Ever since he had woken up, he became much more silent and sat there like a block of wood, but his eyes were so sharp they were frightening. This pair of sharp blade-like eyes also showed worry at this time. He and Yen Lu had woken up 3 days ago, but Ma Fan had still not woken up. Lei Peng and Yen Lu looked at the busy camp. Everyone was furiously cultivating. The two that woke up quickly were told about a string of unbelievable events, like the sand under their feet was all 5th-grade golden crystal sand, and the strange corpse was possibly an ancient cultivator from tens of thousands of years ago. Every event was fantastical. If their comrades hadn't been so serious and almost swore oaths, Lei Peng and Yen Lu wouldn't believe it. Everyone had ran over to give a greeting and patted their shoulders. Lei Peng felt good. However, this group ran back to furiously cultivate after making short a greeting. They looked as though they wanted to cripple themselves cultivating. Lei Peng and Yen Lu stared at each other. High-intensity cultivation was a great tradition of the camp, but it was the first time they had seen it so recklessly done. Later, the two had heard that during a sandstorm a few days ago, Darren, Teacher Wei, and a few other top experts didn't take shelter in the slave-transporting boats. These people talked over each other to describe just how frightening that sandstorm had been. But when they spoke of how those top experts had made it through the sandstorm, the two classic battle maniacs felt as though their bodies would ignite. Afterwards, a certain person had given some insider information. Supposedly, this was actually a cultivation method from the ancient era and was very effective. Don't believe it? And had heard the strange corpse say it. This effect, you can see it just by looking at Xie Shan's expression. If it wasn't effective, why was the corners of this guy's mouth reaching his ears? To cultivate this wondrous method, it required at least Jindan-level cultivation. Don't you see everyone going crazy? These people took turns to pat the duo's shoulders and comforted them to recover and heal. Then they scattered and ran to furiously cultivate. Suddenly, Lei Peng's expression on his face. Then he showed joy, and his figure disappeared from his spot. Yen Lu was at his side with a joyful expression. Ma Fan had woken up. What is Darren doing? Now awake, Ma Fan had walked out of the tent and saw Zhuo Mo alone on a nearby sand dune. Ma Fan had a puzzled expression. Darren's movements seemed very strange. He acted as though fragile eggs were hung on his body. Every movement was slow and gentle. He was alone as he slowly spun. Lei Peng and Yen Lu's expressions instantly became strange. Is it some technique? Ma Fan's eyes widened and he almost walked over. Cough cough. Lei Peng was going to remind him when Yen Lu suddenly spoke, "Aren't you going over to greet boss?" Lei Peng glanced at Yen Lu brimming with righteousness. His face twitched a few times. Then he closed his mouth and did not make a sound. Ma Fan felt Yen Lu was right, but he shook his head. "I'm going to wait for boss to finish practicing." "That's fine, boss is only relaxing." Yen Lu had a smirk on his face, but his tone was unusually even. "That's good." Not having seen Yen Lu's expression, Ma Fan felt that while boss' actions looked slightly strange, but he had no more hesitation now that he knew that boss was not practicing. In his view, when had boss been normal? Ma Fan went into the air and flew towards Zhuo Mo. When he was 3 zhang away from boss, his eyes suddenly blurred. Boss disappeared from his spot. Without any warning, boss had disappeared. At the same time, a sense of alarm rose. But before he could react, he felt like he had been hit by a high-speed slave-transporting boat. Bam! The pitiful Ma Fan was sent flying like a ball. Ma Fan flipped in the air. The light of the golden crystal sand occasionally swept across his confused face. The impact force was not high, but it was very tyrannical. What was going on? Having just woken up, Ma Fan was confused. Yen Lu and Lei Peng were crouching on the ground as they laughed wildly and slapped the sand. Seeing the scene, cheers and whistling came from the camp. As expected from Ma Fan. That twist and turn, the attitude, the level of difficulty is definitely a 3-0. Whoa, Darren's Butte explosion attack. Wonderful. It is soul-stealing. Oh, the 20th. Hearing this, Ma Fan instantly understood. He had been tricked by Lei Peng and Yen Lu. Flipping through the air, Ma Fan's figure suddenly spread like a large bird taking off. He stared in fury at Lei Peng and Yen Lu on the ground. Lei Pang and Yen Lu exchanged a look and said in unison, "Run." The two of them sprinted, one on the right and one on the left. Pursuit and subsequent howls sounded in the camp. Cheers and laughter came after. Meanwhile, the culprit, Zwe Mo, carefully plucked himself out of the sand. He was already numb to this kind of situation. Events like this had happened many times. It caused no one to dare to come within 30 zhang of him. It was due to all the damn changes inside his body. His consciousness, Ling power, and flesh and had completely merged into one. Even the strange corpse could not predict what effect it would have. Initially it seemed as though Zwe Mo was on the same path as the strange corpse, but in reality, the two were completely different. The three major systems of Yao, Mo and Xiu had developed over tens of thousands of years to become completely different than in ancient times. After development, what result would come from the three powers merging together again? The strange corpse did not know, Pu Yao and Wei did not know. Of course, Pu Yao's scorn and laughter could not be avoided. Zwe Mo tragically found that he could only rely on himself in important times. Alright, he would just rely on himself. In any case, it wasn't the first time he had to do this. But the dream of being taken care of and being allowed to eat soft rice, when would that be realized? Zwe Mo cried inside. The direct problem he was facing now was that his movements were just a thread faster than his thoughts. That was what caused the situation with Ma Fan. Once someone came within 3 zhang of him, his body was unconsciously moved. This reflex was faster than his mind. He usually would have hit someone flying before he would have reacted. Everyone called it the brute explosion attack. The meaning was that no matter if one was willing or not, there was only one result. Of course, there was another layer of meaning. No matter if boss was willing or not, he had explosively struck someone else. Therefore, Zwe Mo had a new nickname, Tyrant. This caused him to feel very helpless. The situation inside his body was filled with power and dominance that he did not understand. He did not lack for power inside. Every cord of muscle, every drop of Ling power, and every thread of consciousness was filled with power. But when a great power was uncontrollable, it brought a calamity. However, Zwe Mo now displayed his open mind and strong persistence. Even if he was as weak as a child in front of this power, and did not have any strength to resist, he was not demotivated, did not give up. Maybe he could modify and adapt an existing method? Sitting down again, Zwe Mo thought furiously what method could help him. At this time, someone suddenly shouted, "A sandstorm is coming!" Far in the horizon, a black line was becoming thicker at astounding speed. With their previous experience, everyone was much calmer than compared to previous sandstorm. The camp was completely protected by formations that the Golden Crow camp had made using golden crystal sand. Ji Wei and Sun Bao were very experienced. After designing the plans for the large ship, they did not start work immediately, but first set up defensive formations. They knew that forging the large golden crystal sand ship would not be an easy matter, and they would spend a considerable amount of time on it. Protecting everyone and ensuring their safety was the most pressing issue. Even though they had the help of the strange corpse last time, but Darren had said it was always most reliable to rely on oneself. The scholarly aura of Golden Crow Camp had increased. The jade scroll that Zwe Mo had delivered to them in the past was like a seed that had been planted, germinated, and started to grow. It could be seen from how they set up formations this time. Even though they did not work as quickly as Zwe Mo did alone, but they worked together methodically. They also found a solution for the hard-to-process golden crystal sand. Influenced by Zwe Mo, the Golden Crow Camp liked to use large formations. The formation belt that Zwe Mo had designed in the past was greatly favored by them. The defensive formation became an intermediate-scale formation belt in their design. Everyone tried all kinds of methods and could not break through it. Even Pu Yao praised it, and said this group truly comprehended the essence of Zwe Mo's turtle style. However, there were some that did not take shelter in the defensive formation. Other than the elites, Wei Sheng and the other Jindan, others that were close to Jindan, like a Wen and Ma Fan, also stayed out and wouldn't go in. Grinding in the sandstorm could quickly increase their power. This information was quickly passed around in the camp. Due to people like Ma Fan that were just a step away from Jindan, this experience was even more important. It was even possible that they would comprehend and enter Jindan. Awen had realized that his power was not sufficient during the battle with the sand puppet and decided to also endure the sandstorm. This also caused there to be many more people outside this time. There were not many Ningmai 3rd Stratum Xiozha outside, but there was a small batch. In consideration for their safety, Zhou Mo found a bunch of immortal tying chains and got them to tie them around their waists. The other end was tied inside the formation. He knew how powerful the sandstorm was. Even Wei Sheng and the others were only able to protect themselves. If a problem occurred, the only one that had the power to save them was the strange corpse. Zhou Mo didn't dare to guarantee that the strange corpse would act, so he had to use these safety measures. Ma Fan and the others knew how important this life-saving measure was, and all tied them on. The sandstorm came rapidly and instantly swallowed them. The defensive formation lit up and firmly stopped the sandstorm. The people inside the formation nervously stared at the tense immortal tying chains. If the team members on the outside seemed to have a problem, they would work together to pull the other into the formation. But more people were staring at Zhou Mo. All of them were gaping with wide eyes as though they were seeing a ghost. Chapter 423. The thoughts of a genius. The moment the wind and sand hit his body, Zhou Mo's body reacted. Countless little Yao arts suddenly appeared around him without any warning. These little Yao arts were of different colors and varieties. It looked as though multicolored lights were surrounding Zhou Mo. The same time as the little Yao arts appeared, the faint sword essence present was like a flying sword slowly coming out of its sheath and showing his edges. Flame seal armor, midday sword, day script palm, light void wings, golden crow feet, great day. Zhou Mo hadn't even reacted and the 6 transformations of the Great Day Mo physique had started on their own. He was instantly fully armored. At this moment, Zhou Mo was unusually grand. The complete Great Day Mo physique was flashing with golden light. The sharp style of Mo was murderous and caused everyone to feel fear. He held his hands in the air in front of his chest as though he was holding an invisible and enormous sword. Faint sword essence brimmed but did not erupt. Slow and rapid little Yao arts glowed. Light blue water energy, dots of red flames. No wonder the people inside the defensive formation were left dumbstruck. The destructive sandstorm seemed to especially treasure this beauty, as it was calm within 3 zhang of Zhou Mo. Zhou Mo was also filled with curiosity. It was the first time he had encountered the 3 powers of his body acting all at once. He could feel that the vast well of power in his body was like an ocean. Compared to the power inside, the power that is active now was not a lot. It was like a single wave stirred when the wind swept by the ocean. But this wave was enough to make Zhou Mo's heart jump in fright. The ocean was so vast he felt terror. This power was double-edged. It could tear the enemy into pieces but also swallow him. Zhou Mo suppressed the terror inside. He did not try to control the power inside his body, but started a close examination like he was an outsider. He observed as the great power inside him reacted after feeling a threat. Immersed in his discovery, Zhou Mo completely forgot the existence of the sandstorm. The sandstorm had given him a rare 1 in 1,000 chance. This was an attack that came from every angle and could stimulate all kinds of reactions from his body. Zhou Mo coincidentally needed to observe these reactions. Focused, Zhou Mo was so perceptive that it was like he was a whole other person. The changes of his body were dazzling, but they did not dazzle his eyes. He was as calm as ice. He quickly found the ailment. On the surface, it seemed the reason that his actions were faster than his mind was that his reaction speed had become even faster. In other words, his mental reactions were too slow. The two used to be in sync, but the changes of his body had caused his body's reaction speed to increase greatly. The increase in his mental reactions were not as significant as his physical changes, so the two were out of sync. From the root, this change came from the merging of the 3 types of power. The 3 powers of the Xiao, Yao, and Mo systems had merged into one. I am in you and you are in me. Using one power would pull the other two along. These three powers were not at the same level, there were great differences. Of the three, his Mo body was the strongest, the second was his Yao consciousness, and the weakest was his Xiuzhe Ling power. This was the true reason for the loss of balance. Finding the cause, Zhuo Mo could only grimace. Was it easy to grow his spiritual and Ling power? What he had cultivated first was Ling power. He only cultivated the consciousness after he encountered Pu Yao. The Mo physique had been started last, but this latecomer was the one that advanced far ahead and left the other two behind. Who knew that he would encounter a rare event in which the three powers merging together? What made him even more dejected was that, with the three powers as one, even if all those spells were placed in front of him, he could not cultivate them. Right now, continuing to cultivate the Mo physique was the easiest. But he knew that he could not cultivate the Mo physique at this time. Of the three, the Mo physique far surpassed the other two. If he continued to cultivate the Mo physique, the imbalance between the three would become even greater. Thinking about how he would be reduced to instinctual reactions like a wild beast, Zhuo Mo shivered. He couldn't be like that. As Zhuo Mo gritted his teeth and made the decision, he suddenly noticed a strange scene. The golden light on the surface of the 36 blood beads had lit up. Threads of golden light quickly swam between the muscles and blood as the blood beads spat out golden light. Seeing these hair-like golden lights, he suddenly realized he had missed the most crucial thing. Great Day Banded Flame. It was the Great Day Banded Flame. The culprit of this change. A fire seed of 6th grade that rampaged in Zhuo Mo's body but was now tamed and harmless. He tried to control a blood bead. The blood bead wavered. Zhuo Mo was joyed. He hurriedly channeled his consciousness. The situation inside his body was very messy at the moment. Great Day Mo physique, little Yao art, sword essence, all of them were on their own. The amount of consciousness he could use was small. Under the control of this tiny bit of consciousness, the blood bead moved a thread towards the side. This fraction of distance let Zhuo Mo see the light of success. He gritted his teeth and continued to channel his consciousness to move the blood bead. In the presence that Zhuo Mo released, the Great Day Mo physique held the definite advantage. The absolute power of the Great Day Mo physique forced the other two powers to go along. Among this mess, Zhuo Mo seemed to walk a tightrope and carefully control the little bit of consciousness that he could. This control was very mentally taxing. After a while, Zhuo Mo's head was covered in sweat. He didn't dare to have a stray thought. If he relaxed even slightly, the blood bead that had just moved would automatically return to its original position. That meant the loss of all his effort. Concentrating on slowly moving the blood bead, he didn't even detect the end of the sandstorm. The strange corpse stopped the other people from disturbing Zhuo Mo. He could see Zhuo Mo was at an extremely crucial time. He wasn't the only one who saw it. Wei Sheng and the others also could see. They even did not attend to what they gained this time and patiently waited. Zhuo Mo's mind was immersed completely in his body. As the sandstorm finished, he felt the pressure explode. The power of the Mo physique finished resisting the sandstorm and was no longer active. For Zhuo Mo, the situation instantly became terrible. The power of the Mo physique was the core of the three. It returning to silence meant the other two powers instantly also quieted. Zhuo Mo didn't have any more opportunities. But Zhuo Mo was not demotivated. He was greatly encouraged because he understood his idea was not wrong. The blood beads that contained Great Day Banded Flame gave Zhuo Mo inspiration. The Mo power was stronger than the other two powers. It was like a balance, the Mo physique on one side with the consciousness and Ling power on the other. It would tilt automatically towards the Mo physique. But if he used the Great Day Mo physique as the counterweight? The Great Day Banded Flame that was 6th grade and was more powerful than the twice-matured Great Day Mo physique. It was even stronger than the Mo physique, the consciousness, and the Ling power added together. The life-threatening situation that during the first sandstorm had proven this. It only was when the three had combined together that the flame was suppressed. But the Great Day Banded Flame was enough to subdue any one of the powers. Even more importantly, The great day-banded flame had been split evenly among the 36 blood beads. They were like little weights that could allow Zhuemo to balance the difference between the three as he wished. Of course, while this idea could be called perfect, there still were many problems. The most important one was how to add the power of the great day-banded flame to the other three powers. Zhuemo thought of another clever idea: Dan cauldron. Exactly. The first thing he thought of was a Dan cauldron. The Mo physique was powerful and able to tolerate the fire seed. The other two powers could create and destroy each other. The 36 blood beads were enough for him to set up several fire formations. Once the fire formations were completed, the great day-banded flame could be added to every power, and this power balance would form. This daring idea caused him to feel excitement. He did not know if this idea was right, because all of the ideas had come from him. He had not received any guidance or suggestions. He had used only his power and found a solution. It seemed to have a hope of success, but that was enough. A situation that even the strange corpse, Pu Yao and Wei could not solve. He found the breakthrough. How could he not be excited? The mental excitement caused him to work even easier. 6 hours later, when the last blood bead moved that thread and reached the wanted position, a change suddenly occurred. Zhuemo felt the surroundings suddenly become deathly silent. He seemed to be in a patch of dark void. Suddenly, a bit of golden light shined in the void. The golden light grew. It was like sharp golden spears that pierced the void. The golden light quickly enlarged in Zhuemo's eyes until it took up all of his vision. Boom! Something seemed to burst into Zhuemo's brain. His mind instantly became blank. Pia! A light sound. A ball of great day-banded flame shot out of Zhuemo's left foot and covered his entire foot. Soon after, another light sound. His right foot also sprouted great day-banded flame. Pa pa pa! A string of light sounds and balls of great day-banded flame came from all parts of Zhuemo: knee, stomach, arm. The 36 balls of flame were clearly divided as they burned silently. Covered in flame, Zhuemo did not show any expression of pain. His pupils did not have panic, they were empty of everything. In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao and Wei gaped, dumbstruck. A moment later, light gathered slowly in the depths of the eyes, and his eyes resumed their usual light. Refocusing, Zhuemo jumped in fright at the great day-banded flame that entered his eyes. He quickly reacted. He had succeeded. He grinned and laughed. Success. He had really succeeded. The messed-up body had returned to normal. He relished in the feeling of regaining freedom of movement again. This feeling was great. He suddenly jumped and his figure charged into the sky. Feeling the strong incoming wind, he felt unspeakably comfortable. As though he was a child, he flew around the sky without exhaustion. The laughter of the youth spread out far among the sand dunes. He only stopped when he felt a thread of tiredness. Like a person made out of fire, fire was sprouting from all parts of his body. Zhuemo snickered as he raised his hand towards the sand dune. A ball of golden crystal sand shot into his hand. The great day-banded flame quickly wrapped around these golden crystal sands. The grains softened at a rate visible to the eye and turned into a handful of golden liquid. The other impurities had disappeared into the flame. The smile on Zhuemo's face was unable to be controlled any longer. He couldn't help but laugh up into the sky. Forging likes it too much. Chapter 424, Frenzy of Forging. With the addition of Zhuemo, the forging rate of the big golden crystal ship shot up. The 6th grade Great Day-banded flame easily melted 5th grade golden crystal sand. After Zhuemo worked through the initial rawness from not forging for so long, he quickly recovered his skill of the past and his speed increased again. Later on, all of Golden Crow Camp could only act as assistants to him. 10,000 tons of gold crystal was produced. 100 caddies of golden crystal sand had to be processed to produce 1 caddy of gold crystal. 10,000 tons of gold crystal meant 1 million tons of golden crystal sand. Originally, Zhuemo had only planned on processing 1,000 tons of golden crystal for the ship. But the strange corpse had shown unexpected interest upon observing Zhuemo in processing golden crystal and copied him. With the strange corpse's great cultivation, under the point of a finger, an entire sand dune collapsed and left behind pure gold crystal. With 3 points, the strange corpse processed 3 sand dunes. Each sand dune was over 50 zhang high. It left behind 3 enormous gold crystal balls. Zhuemo laughed with a wide mouth as he skipped over and carried the 3 gold crystal balls back. He now found that a mo physique with great power was the best partner when forging large talismans. Otherwise, he couldn't even move these 3 gold crystal balls. The gold crystal's feel was between crystal and gold. It had the sheen and transparency of crystal, and also the dense metallic feel of the gold metal. When 10,000 tons of gold crystal was piled together, it was just a small sand dune about 3 zhang high. All of Golden Crow Camp gaped. Boss' fantastical forging skills caused them to feel great shock, and the strange corpse's skill had left them collectively speechless. No one had expected the most difficult and time-consuming step would be finished like this. A long while later, Sun Bao and Ji Wei refocused and directed the other people to divide up the golden crystal. Zhuemo did not interfere with the remaining work. He knew Sun Bao and the others had their own plans. In forging, craftsmanship was important, but the ideas were the most important. If he interfered, Sun Bao and the others would be influenced by his ideas, and he wasn't familiar with how Golden Crow Camp worked. If he imposed, it would produce a detrimental effect. Having idle time, Zhuemo decided to practice forging using golden crystal sand. A short while later, there was a golden-colored broadsword in his hand. He had copied design of the black sword Wei Sheng had to make this gold crystal sword. Its length was almost the height of a person, similar to a horse-chopping sword. The glimmering and half-transparent gold crystal made it appear like a piece of art rather than a weapon of slaughter. Truthfully, Zhuemo's forging craftsmanship really couldn't be said to be good, but the material was very high level. Due to being made completely from the gold crystal purified from 5th-grade gold crystal sand, its weight reached a terrifying 3 tons. Other than himself, no one would be able to use this gold crystal sword. His skill had decayed. He shook his head and sighed. But as the material was extraordinary, this golden crystal broadsword was 5th grade. What surprised Zhuemo the most was that it had 3 formation techniques: 30,000 caddies, corruption destroying, and skyfire. Of course, what Zhuemo was surprised at was the number of formation techniques. He was not surprised at the 3 formation techniques themselves. But with these 3 formation techniques, this gold crystal sword could be ranked as intermediate 5th grade. Zhuemo didn't feel any joy at forging an intermediate 5th grade broadsword. Instead, he shook his head. The gold crystal was made from purified gold crystal sand. It had the potential to be forged into a 6th grade talisman. Intermediate 5th grade was inside the normal limits. There was an innate difference between 6th and 5th grade. What he did not know was that many pairs of eyes were staring at the broadsword in his hand, and sounds of swallowing occurred. Lei Peng had the thickest skin and he rushed over. "Head, give this to In. Such a big one, Head will have to expend effort to carry it, and is strong and isn't afraid of exhaustion." Zhuemo was slightly surprised. "Don't you use a saber?" "Huh, nothing, broadswords and sabers are about the same." Lei Peng smiled honestly. "Here, if you can move it, then take it." Zhuemo pointed at the gold crystal broadsword stuck upright in the sand and said. Lei Peng was overjoyed and hurriedly ran over. He gathered all the energy in his body, breathed in, and then pulled the broadsword out of the sand. Without another word, he placed it on his shoulders like he was carrying a door. Like someone was chasing him, he dashed away. Many people that were watching in the surroundings showed annoyance. "The big blockhead got ahead of me. Lei Peng's face is invincible." "You can do that." The broadsword now having a home, Zhuemo thought for a while, and started to work again. He hadn't thought about the abnormal heaviness of the gold crystal, so the flying sword that he had forged was too heavy. Having learned the lesson, he started to forge again. A short while later, he had 2 flying swords, one long and one short, on his hand. Zhuemo had a satisfied expression this time. These two flying swords were a male and female sword. The male sword was just 1 chi, the female sword was 9 cun. The sword sheaths had moving curves, and the swords themselves were naturally curved and nimble. These flying swords had 4 formation techniques: sky breaking, rainbow mist, light rush, and gold strands. Upper 5th grade. These flying swords were definitely top among 5th grade flying swords. 5th grade talismans would have 4 formation techniques at maximum, and these formation techniques were very good and could be called the best. The people that had been staring at Zhuemo instantly became restless when they saw Zhuemo's expression. Before they were able to move, a figure appeared in front of Zhuemo. It was Xie Shan. Late again. Many sighs of disappointment sounded in unison. Xie Shan was very smug inside, but when he turned to Zhuemo, he gravely and respectfully made a bow. Darren, can these swords be bestowed to Xie Shan? Zhuemo thought for a moment and then nodded. This flying sword is suited for you. He handed the flying swords to Xie Shan after speaking. Xie Shan carefully took the flying swords. After a slight examination, he suddenly became excited. These swords seemed to have been custom-made for him, and was a match for his Aurora sword essence. For any sword xiu, a flying sword suited for them was a fortuitous encounter. Many sword forging masters provided custom services, but that price tag was so high it was only possible to dream. Xie Shan had dreamed countless times of finding a sword that was suited for him, but when these flying swords were truly in front of him, he didn't quite dare to believe it. He suddenly bowed. Darren, please bestow a name. Zhuemo wanted to say Xie Shan could name it, but when he saw Xie Shan's serious expression he could only say, then it can be the Paired Mirage Sword. Paired Mirage Sword. Paired Mirage Sword. Xie Shan recited inside. He bowed towards Darren, thank you for the name. Zhuemo was very satisfied with the Paired Mirage Sword, but this also reminded him. He could not forge so freely, and had to forge to specifications. If the talismans he forged were not suited for someone to use, then what was the use? Thinking about this, he shouted casually, who still needs a flying sword? The entire camp suddenly exploded. The members of Vermilion Bird Camp flooded towards Zhuemo. Many raised their hands in the air as they furiously shouted, Darren, I need one. I need. Darren, give it to me. Zhuemo realized that he had just poked the hornet's nest. Huh, Darren is really hardworking. Sun Bao glanced at Zhuemo, who was almost drowning in the crowd, and said with a bright laugh. Ji Wei also laughed. Forging more is good. After the two conversed a few words, they put their attention back on the forging of the big ship. This unprecedentedly large ship was also an unprecedented test for Golden Crow Camp. In order to hold everyone meant that the inside of the ship had to have enough space. If this ship was built using normal methods, then this ship would need to be 3 times the size of the current slave transporting boats. But the bigger the ship, the more Jingshur they would need to use. It required setting up more formations, and the target it presented would be bigger. Sun Bao and the others did not plan to use normal methods to forge the ship. Darren's date seed ship had given them great inspiration. They decided to use the same method to forge the big ship. Space formations required highly of the materials. That was the reason that the price of the space rings on the market never dropped. Rarely would there be people that would use space formations on ships. The price of construction would be too high, and often the ship would not be as good as ones built using normal methods. But for Sun Bao and the others, the materials were not a problem they needed to consider at all. The gold crystal that was just a thread from being a 6th grade material had great potential and could hold the space formations. Golden crystal sand was one of the materials that was used to forge high-level space rings. And they had 10,000 tons of even higher-grade gold crystal. Sun Bao and Ji Wei's enthusiasm grew, the enthusiasm of Golden Crow Camp grew. Everyone knew that after this, there wouldn't be another chance to waste materials like this. An enormous formation belt spread out. At the center was the Crimson Fiend Cauldron. The Crimson Fiend Cauldron was smaller in size. Since the day it was forged, there wasn't a day when it wasn't being tempered. They methodically activated the formations. Dashes of light lit up, and the Crimson Fiend cauldron spat out astounding red-black flames. Ji Wei and Sun Bao directly threw a tenth of the gold crystal into the Crimson Fiend cauldron. A whole 1,000 tons of gold crystal. The red-black flames instantly swallowed the gold crystal. Everyone instantly showed nervousness. The people that were standing beside the formation started to continuously release spells. Lights continuously entered the Crimson Fiend cauldron. Threads of golden light started to creep into the cauldron. The red-black flames also seemed to be dyed with a layer of gold, and the sound was not as fierce as it had been. The first wave of Xiozha had pale faces after a short time as their Ling power was used up. Behind them, another wave of people came forward and took over their positions to continuously release spells. Everyone had grave expressions. No one spoke, no one daydreamed. Even the most exhausted Xiozha widened their eyes to stare at the Crimson Fiend cauldron at the center of the formation. Out of everyone present, Sun Bao and Ji Wei were the most nervous. When they had first designed the Crimson Fiend cauldron, they had allowed for the possibility that the Crimson Fiend cauldron could level up. Today was the time to prove if their design was right or not. The gold light inside the cauldron grew. It became restless as though there was golden liquid flowing restlessly inside the cauldron. Suddenly, a formation script on the body of the cauldron lit up. It was like a brush coated in golden liquid drew along the formation script. A gold formation script slowly formed. Golden formation scripts lit up one after one. When the last formation script was complete, the flame bursting from the cauldron suddenly paused. The big formation seemed to suddenly become deathly silent. The air solidified. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.